I call to order the Verona Township Council for Monday, the 3rd of March, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statements?
Requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date are included in the public meeting notice along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the Township, the Verona City Road Times, and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and handouts can be viewed at veronanj.org/council meetings. A public comment period will be held in the orders listed on the meeting, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland? Here. Councilwoman McGrath? Here. Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Here.
Mayor Tamboro? Mayor also present tonight is Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, Township Attorney Rosemary Fiara, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kieran, and CFO Jen Mascara.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, I'm going to invite, we're going to have a special guest here, Girl Scout Troop 20915, to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies, you can go right up to that microphone there. We'll just make sure it's on. And if you would lead us in the pledge.
This one, just make sure there's a red light on it.
Is there a red light? Is that on?
There is.
Yes.
There is? Okay.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and its republic which it stands
one nation,
under
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. The mayor's report today, just a couple items. We had a very successful restaurant week this past week. Thank you for the Chamber of Commerce for arranging all of that. I think this was the most restaurants we've ever had. And thank you to Nomada, the New Mexican restaurant in town, for hosting the kickoff to that. That was a pleasure to attend that. And as always, they were gracious hosts. And they will be expanding their hours in the next weeks to include things like lunch. So we'll give them a plug for that. So if you haven't dropped in, please do. It's as lovely as always. In the past couple of weeks, we've had several more water main breaks that our Public Works Department has been responding to and dealing with quickly. So on behalf of the entire Township and team, thank you for getting those things addressed right away. There was a complex motor vehicle accident last week involving a small school bus. Fortunately, there were only 2 passengers, but I just wanted to thank the Verona Police Department, the Verona Rescue Squad, the Verona Fire Department, and the Montclair Police Fire and EMS for their response to that. And it was a lot better than it could have been. But anytime anything happens on the town line, it's complicated. Anything involving a school bus is complicated. So thank you all for that. The planning board had a lengthy meeting this past Thursday to consider an application for a variance for parking at 60 Conklin Avenue. And the planning board determined to not grant the entire variance, but to grant a partial variance for the expansion of a pediatric physical therapy, intensive physical therapy facility that is inside, but which was a solution that was reasonable and accepted by the applicant as well. So it turned out to be a good way of addressing concerns. In addition, the board, in its finding, included some provisions, including privacy fencing, handling fencing around the garbage area, doing better snow removal, and various other neighborly items to help the residents on the Martin Road area. So thank you to the entire planning board for their assistance that evening, and especially to Jason Heineman, who joined me in that motion and helped make some updates to that. I am pleased to announce that this is Irish Heritage Month here and everywhere else. We just had our Irish flag raising outside, and it was a pleasure to be joined by the Women of Irish Heritage, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the Shillelagh Club, and the Emerald Society, amongst various other residents. It's always a pleasure to celebrate our Irish heritage and the close connection that the United States and Ireland has always had. We had a very special honor to one of our residents, or former residents, but who is still a member of the Verona Rescue Squad, Patrick Sullivan, who's an EMT with Verona Rescue Squad and a paramedic for Jersey City, was named Irish Paramedic of the Year by the Jersey City Parade Committee, which is a great honor. Patrick is a graduate of Verona High School and is just really an all-around good guy. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to officiate 4 weddings. This is a busy time of the year for weddings, Ms. Kiernan, right? We're doubling up now. I just wanted to wish all the couples happiness there as well. Finally, on the report itself, I received a call today from the executive director of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, informing us that a photo that had been submitted by our public information office in response to their Show Off Their Cities contest, which was an aerial view of the Verona Community Pool, was selected as the winner. The picture was taken by Norman DeShong, a Verona resident, and that picture will be the cover of the League of Municipalities magazine for the month of April. So thank you to Elisa and team on that one. And it's fantastic. That is something we're very proud of in this town, is that pool. And it's great. So I thank Elisa for submitting that and Mr. Sean for taking the picture. So if you don't get the League of Municipalities magazine, I'm sure that we will be sharing an image of it for you. And finally, I am walking on an appointment, a mayor's appointment. It's not on the agenda. I'll be appointing Mr. David Needle to the second alternate number 2 for the Shade Tree Commission. And his term will expire the 31st of this year. And now I'd like to invite our county liaison, Mr. Jay. Jay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry I missed last meeting. I was checking the food out in Rome, Italy.
And you didn't bring any back?
I didn't bring any. You're not allowed to, but I had a wonderful time and sorry I missed the meeting. On behalf of the county executive, this Thursday, March 7th, you're all invited to the State of the County. It's at our hospital center, which is 207 Grove Avenue in Cedar Grove, and it starts at 7 p.m. Please come and join us and see what we're doing and what we have done throughout the county. Sunday, March 9th, 11 to 1 p.m. at the Burson Center at Turtleback Zoo. There's a job fair, and they are looking for specifically from Memorial Day to Labor Day, students who are 18 years old to work on the rope run and climbing. You have to be 18. And this is what I liked really about it. The hours are from 10 to 4. So if you're a college student, you want to go out at night, you can do that and still wake up by 10 o'clock and get to our zoo and participate. Coming April 6th, it's open already on the park website. It's the 10K run at Branchford Park, but you should be receiving in the mail also our brochure of all the activities for the cherry blossom season. Questions, comments, or anything else?
Any questions for county liaison? Jay, thank you as well.
Thank you.
See you Thursday. All right. And finally, in my report, I do want to recognize that March 12th, 2025 is the 113th anniversary of the Girl Scouts. So I have a proclamation recognizing that. I would like to thank our Girl Scout troop that is present today for representing the Girl Scouts to receive this proclamation, for bringing the idea up to myself and our municipal clerk. We'll read the proclamation at this time. Whereas March 12th, 2025 marks the 113th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the United States of America, the largest, most impactful leadership program for girls in the world. And whereas the Girl Scout movement began on March 12th, 1912, when Juliet Daisy Gordon Lowe, a native of Savannah, Georgia, organized a group of 18 girls and provided them with the opportunity to develop physically, intellectually, socially, and spiritually. And whereas for over a century, Girl Scouts of America has advanced its mission to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Whereas today, more than 50 million women, trailblazers, visionaries, and leaders are Girl Scout alums who have made the world a better place. And whereas since its beginnings, Girl Scouts have emphasized public service and civic engagement and has fostered a sense of community in girls. And whereas Girl Scouting is a powerful force for social connection and creates a positive and uplifting national global network among girls. Whereas at a time when civics education is missing from many schools, Girl Scouts engages girls of all grade levels in civic programming that deepens their understanding of community action, democracy, and government, that prepares them for a lifetime of civic engagement and motivates them to take action on the issues that are important to them. Whereas as a member organization of the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts is part of an international sisterhood of 10 million girls and young women in 152 countries and is committed to offering girls more opportunities to engage with communities worldwide, make meaningful global connections, and explore global citizenship. Whereas Girl Scouts Heart of New Jersey serves over 13,000 girls across Essex, Hudson, Hunterdon, Somerset, Union, Southern Warren, and parts of Middlesex counties. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Tamboro, Mayor of the Township of Verona, do hereby applaud the Girl Scout movement for providing girls with a secure, inclusive, all-girls space where they can hone their skills and develop leadership abilities, and declare March 9th through March 15th as Girl Scout Week. Witness whereof, I appear to set my hand and cause the Great Seal of the Township of Verona in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, to be affixed on this third day of March in the year 2025. And I'd like to invite our girls present and their leader to come on up. We have some copies of the proclamation for everybody here, and we have several extra copies for the people who are not. You'll want to.
In the grass. Yeah. Thank you.
I got that. I think that's the final thing.
Thanks for mentoring. Sure. Thank you for coming. My goodness, I love your roller skate.
We got somebody Friday here, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being there. Now I'm going to give you these.
Okay, great.
Well, kind of hop in the middle of everybody here. I have to stand by my name. Say cookies.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. We can't wait to see all the good work.
Leaders, girls, do you guys want to say anything? You don't have to.
We appreciate the opportunity for the proclamation and to represent the Scouts in our town.
Perfect.
Okay.
Before everybody goes, I just wanted to invite the rest of the council, if anybody has some words. I'm just going to start briefly as a product of the Boy Scouting movement. I think everything in this proclamation is spot on in the skills that it brings, and especially to young women who will make a difference. And I look forward to all of you doing that. Just a few months ago, we had a presentation from our Silver Award recipients. We're just fine examples of young women leaders in this community. So I look forward to seeing you all back here for that same thing, which should happen sooner rather than later. And get working on those projects, ladies, right? Sooner. But I just wanted to ask if my fellow council members would like to say anything.
Gregoria, thank you for all you do for Verona. Keep going and inspire even people younger than you. Keep up the good work.
Sure.
So how many of you are working on a silver award? Nice. All right. My understanding is that your troop is pretty active with the silver awards, so keep that going because it is a tremendous amount of work, but it's also a really big accomplishment and it makes a big difference in the community. So I really just want to encourage you to keep doing that. It is so important to have women leaders. March, in addition to having Girl Scout Week, is Women's History Month. And you are making history, right? By doing this community activity, by having the Township Council issue this proclamation for you. I mean, that's all very, very important. And I think you are the 8th grade troop at HBW has 4 girls in it, and your troop has like what, 3 or 4 times that?
20, we have 20.
Yeah, so it's pretty impressive that, you know, as a 7th grade troop, you have so many girls still engaged. So I want to echo what Deputy Mayor McAvoy said, like, please continue on this journey. It is so impressive that you've come this far, complete your silver awards and go for the gold in high school. Like, that is a tremendous accomplishment. Very few women across the country earn that award, let alone internationally. I made it to cadet level scouting, but I did not earn a silver award. And so it's really impressive what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you. Councilman.
I'll mention I'm also a product of the scouting movement from when I was a youth, and it gives you a lot of amazing opportunities to try things, to do things that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to experience. It's great for building leadership skills, for being involved in your community. So it's wonderful to hear the stories of what all of our Girl Scouts are doing in this community. It's wonderful seeing you at all of our events and here in the council chambers tonight. I look forward to hearing about service projects and learning more about what you're doing, and very much encourage you to continue on this path, and congratulations.
And Councilwoman.
But last but not least, I too made it to the cadet level. So congratulations, girls, for continuing the tradition of the Girl Scouts. And I'm really struck with all of our scouting organizations, how much they contribute to the community. So I'm really excited to see what your troop will do, especially since I heard how large it is. It's really wonderful. And some of my fondest memories were being in the Girl Scouts and going to Girl Scout camp at Jockey Hollow. So I hope you're really enjoying your experience and keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies. Feel free now to depart. You're the lucky ones. Unless you want any money from the budget, then you have to stay with them for the next hour or so.
Feel free to bring cookies next time.
Take care. Yes. All right, Mr. Township Manager, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I'll try to run through my report quickly. We do have a good deal of budgetary discussions for tonight, but there is a lot going on. So I'll try to touch it like kind of as quickly as possible. The pool renovation project is ready for mobilization. We're waiting for a final construction schedule from the contractor. The final due by date for construction completion is April 30th, so we should expect mobilization within the next few weeks. As far as the smoke testing study that we did throughout the township, we did receive a draft report from Boswell. We will be meeting with them to review the draft summary, and once it's in final form, we'll provide that to the council. With the primary clarifier pumping station project, we do have some minor work which is beginning. The majority of the work will be taking place later this spring and through the summer. That will be complete later at the end of this year. Additionally, we had a meeting with the design engineers for the disinfection system and the microscreen project today. So those projects are moving through design. We do have 30% design drawings ready, and we will be working with both the DEP and the iBank on completing that project and getting that out to bid as well. With the Lynn Drive well, that project is largely complete. The well is pumping water back into our system. There's some minor punch list items which do need to be addressed to get the well 100% complete. But that project is nearing absolute completion, but it is providing service to the township again. Similarly, with Fairview Avenue well, we did finally receive an approval from Green Acres on our exemption application. We should have that project out to bid this month. And at that point, we will be going into construction, moving that project along as quickly as possible. It is a 15-month construction, so that construction won't be complete until sometime next year. Claridge Drive Pump Station, we are still reviewing the bids on that project. Recommendation is pending. We also did, as far as some road repaving projects, we did meet with the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Committee representatives and the NJTPA team on February 21st to review the draft recommendations for Linden Avenue. That committee will be bringing those discussions to their meeting this month, at which point Boswell will look to prepare design documents for then presentation at an appropriate council meeting. Trying to jump ahead, we also have our Everett Field project, which is at 70% completion in design drawings. We have requested feedback from stakeholder groups. We have begun receiving some comments in return, but we will be looking to get final comments so we can incorporate all those comments into the final design in the coming weeks. That is targeted for a presentation later this spring, so we can have that out to bid in the May or June timeframe. The pickleball and tennis courts project, the contractor jumped into mobilization. They took advantage of some of the early warm weather last week, and they've begun demolition. They do have a contract duration of 90 days, so we are expecting completion no later than late May for that project. We also did receive and circulate the final reports for the local government energy audit. We will have a presentation at the April 7th Township Council meeting. And we are also working through the final contracts for the final proposed contracts for the larger solar project, which we've discussed a few times. That project is coinciding with the Lakeside Avenue parking lot project. The solar consultant and Boswell are working together, but we should be having final designs ready for presentation to the council and for the Lakeside Avenue parking lot, and we'll be ready for putting that project out to bid in the next, hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have that ready for bidding. We have 2 change orders on the agenda for this evening. One is for the communications tower building. That project is complete, but as previously discussed, there was some additional work for the helical piles which are driven to resupport that structure. Additionally, the town hall windows and repointing project is proceeding as previously discussed. The windows are into production. They are not expected until some point in June. However, there was the addition of 3M protective film on a number of windows on the first floor. That's the subject of a change order this evening. And then there's a number of grant applications which are summarized in my report as well. Unless there's questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions for the township manager? Okay. Sarah.
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. I have some friends today.
We know. They only show up when it's budget time, you know, it hurts our feelings a little bit.
Part of it, right? Before we get to my friends, it was brought to my attention that in your printed binders, on the dais, you should have received paperwork like this. Only really the second page didn't print. I had a problem printing, but really only the second page didn't print in the binders, in the printed binders. Which I don't really know why that happened, but which was in tab 3 in your binder. So if we have we can go over it. I know that you just received it, but it was in the emailed binders that went out a couple weeks ago. But it is your debt service. your COVID emergency and your grants, as well as your Roseland interlocal. If there's questions on that, I can also come back to that and give you a little time to digest that while we get into the other budgets.
Any questions for Ms. Star on this? We wanna, Councilwoman McGrath.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly straightforward. I guess my question is, can you remind us what legal installments are and
Legal installments are the mandatory down payments that we have to make
okay,
on the bond ordinances.
and so you're projecting that to go significantly down?
It went significantly down last year with the addition in the ARP funds. We were allowed to use some of that money to offset our debt, and I thought that was a good place to use the debt offset to reduce what we need to borrow in the future.
Mhm.
Now gone, our minimum has reduced.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
What tab?
I will call up tab 16, Tom Jacobson first.
Mr. Jacobson, welcome. Good to see you.
Nice to see everybody. Good evening.
Oh, you want to show?
Well, I said you want to start first.
Okay, so on the top, obviously, differences are your salary and wages, which is your OPIU agreement. That's the only major difference. We also budgeted for overtime, as you are aware. Last year, we did not budget for overtime. There was some health issues with one of the employees in that department. So that had caused overtime, and unknowing what 2025 would bring, we decided to put some overtime costs in there as well to help with the situation in general and relieve some employees kind of in that department. So that is your largest difference on the top. On the bottom, your largest difference is the file management that we discussed in the last meeting. So it significantly reduced from budgeted at $45,000 to $5,000. Those are your two major differences in this budget. We also just budgeted slightly higher in clothing. You want to?
Yes.
Jump in?
Good evening, everybody. As far as what Jen was saying with new equipment and file management, I have to give kudos to Jen Kiernan for Phobionics, and did a tremendous job with that and significant saving for township money. And I know Councilman Roman for the last 3 years has been saying, what are we doing here? What are we doing all this records retention? And we finally have a plan. Thank you for Jen for doing that, and also Jen for follow-up. To say 2024 was a challenging year is an understatement with the loss of our technical assistant. And I really appreciate the support the mayor, council, township manager, Kevin O'Sullivan has shown to building a difficult time. I appreciate that. Code enforcement is divided into 3 categories quickly. I know you have a jam-packed agenda because Jen told me if I talk more than 5 minutes, she's going to wipe out my budget. So I try to be as quick as possible. Code enforcement is divided into 3 categories. The first category is construction code, which is building, electrical, plumbing, fire, and technical assistant. Second category, property maintenance. And third category is the zoning department, zoning official, zoning assistant, and board secretary. In 2024, my office issued 708 permits and 125 permit updates. The building department is off to another robust year, and 2025 looks to be in pace with or more than 2024. Total department construction permit income for 2024 was $3,000. The building department conducted 2,845 inspections. And some highlights for 2024, quickly, the Verona Flats apartment complex with a total of 95 units. Building C at 12 units is fully occupied. Building B, 12 units is fully occupied. Building A, 71 units, is targeted to be completed and occupied by the end of March 2025, this month. Developer has been very appreciative of the time spent expediting the inspections, so the work can proceed in a timely manner. We did renew the Roseland shared service contract for years 23 through 26, so now we've been in Roseland for 13 years, and everything's going very smoothly there. The mayor is very happy with Verona so far. I've continued to advance green technology in the building department in support of Sustainable Verona Committee. To date, we have 218 properties with solar panels and 211 car charging outlets in town. And Kevin spoke about the PFAS. The playground at the Verona Community Center opened in 2024 and was a big hit with the children because we could see it right out my window. And it's just been a wonderful addition. We spoke about the digital file storage. Looking ahead to 2025, the submission of permits to construct 200 units on Sunset Avenue for Spectrum 360 site. When we had a meeting with some of the major parties for Spectrum 360 with the township manager, they said they hope to submit permits in April of this year, but start construction in 2026. So. And every few years, I review our fee schedule and compare it to neighboring towns with a sampling of 10 similar towns. I try to keep Verona in the middle of the pack, and we create a spreadsheet, and I will review that with Township Manager O'Sullivan to see where we need to tweak up or down. But I don't like to be at the top of the list of all the towns, and I don't like to be on the bottom either. So I try to stay in the middle of the pack. And that's really my report. Oh, just so you know, as of September, I started my 49th year with the Township. But who's counting?
Any questions for Mr. Jacobson?
Comment. I mean, obviously your budget is pretty straightforward, but you and I have always had a number of discussions over the years, and I always have come to appreciate how public service oriented you and your department are. Realize what goes into this, but everyone's home is their biggest asset, and making sure that construction is done properly and safely is a vital public service that the township provides. And we consistently hear, from contractors and everyone else involved in building work in the township that Verona is highly efficient and does this very well. So I greatly appreciate it, as well as all your efforts to make sure that we are raising appropriate amounts of revenue and working with the Roseland shared service agreement.
Thank you very much. We try.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comprehensive report. I'm really interested in zoning enforcement. So, and I know that you've had a lot of new staff come on. So can you speak a little bit on how that department is working, and do you have any stats on zoning enforcement?
I do not. I know Kathleen was supposed to be here tonight, honestly.
Okay.
Traditionally, zoning was actually done by Public Works. And we had a lot of comments from residents that, well, why isn't it up here by the building department? And probably 99% of the building departments in the state, the zoning is with them, because a lot of times they come, they have the same questions for zoning. So we finally got it up to our department. We have gone through a few different Board of Adjustment secretaries. Sometimes they just move on, so it's been a challenge there, but our new zoning official, Kathleen Meese, she's been very good and addressing the public at the counter and everything, and she really knows. But I don't have stats, but I can get them for you.
Okay.
As far as specifically how many applications have come in and
Yeah,
things
and
like
also enforcement activities that the township may initiate for entities that are not following our zoning code.
right. Interestingly, for a small town like Verona, there's a lot of applications, especially Board of Adjustment. They're backed up into May.
Mhm.
That's with 3 or 4 applications per night, so it's a very busy office. So, but I can get more specifics for you.
Thanks.
Any questions for Mr. Jake? I'll just finish. Tom, thank you, as always. And one thing you did not mention in your report is your response when bad things happen to people's homes, when we have emergencies, and you are out there at night in storms, and often the overlooked hero of those situations. So thank you for that, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Thanks, Mayor.
We are going to flip to tab 17, which is fire prevention. Matt Gifford. Matt's budget, as you can see, remained flat, but if you want to discuss anything in there, you are more than welcome to.
Nope.
Nope.
Any question? I answer any questions.
And then we'll go over your capital.
We're still
request there.
preventing fires. I would.
I have some stats I'd like to read.
Please,
There we
yeah.
go.
This is your time, man. So, go ahead.
The Fire Prevention Bureau, employs 4 part-time, employees, 3 other inspectors plus myself. Last year for 2024, we completed 407 inspections, issued 42 permits, assisted other township departments with what we call call-outs or notifications. There were 35 of them. 2 complaints, which is if our officers receive a complaint from a resident. We conducted 9 fire investigations, and one thing that I really look forward to every year is our Fire Prevention Month, which is October. With the assistance of the fire department, we were able to educate 682 children in town for Fire Prevention Month. And then total revenue brought in was $71,355.
And you have fire investigators in-house, which saves us a lot of money.
All 4 of us are fire investigation.
It's a huge benefit. Gotcha.
You want to go over your capitals?
Sure.
Okay, your capitals are right here.
Okay. So for capital requests, there's nothing additional from last year. But this year I'm asking for a pickup truck, a new vehicle. Currently our vehicles are all used police cars, varying with miles from 70,000 to 98,000 miles. I would like to be able to afford, my inspectors and my investigators a new vehicle, something to be proud of, and also one that can keep them safe. Our equipment, when we use it in a fire investigation, is usually contaminated when we're done with it. The pickup truck will allow us to put it in the back out of the cargo area, and until we can get it cleaned. Radios, we do need to communicate with police dispatch often. So having radios, mostly those are mobile radios for our vehicles. So we don't always have to have portables on. With that being said, we do have some portable radios that would become available that we could give to another town entity, the Red Cross Squad or something like that. So they get reused. And then in-vehicle computers, the printers part we can remove. They actually don't support printer for the process we would use, but the computers would save us a lot of time from going back and forth to the office. Our vehicles are basically a mobile office, but if we can on the spot with an inspection be able to email a business in town their whether it be a violation or a permit or completion of inspection, it would save us a lot of time from commuting back and forth. But that's what I have for capital.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Diffley? Any?
Just in terms of the dollar amounts on the capital items, I kind of from having a hard time reconciling them to the requests themselves. I know that vehicles have gotten pricey. How many pickup trucks are you?
Just one.
Just one.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it comes in, we've got 90K on a pickup truck, 30K for radios and 15K for computers. There's the vehicle. I'm assuming we can get a pickup truck for less than that. And, the mobile radios, I remember them being $4,000-$5,000 a unit or so. Then laptops are, $1,500 items. So I'm just kind of curious as to where we landed at the dollar amounts on the capital.
So these were all quotes that I got. So for example, the pickup truck, it depending on which model we went with, I would look for like a quarter-ton series, they call it, like an F-150. Those range, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I want to say it was high 40s. And then we would like to put a cap on the back of it to keep all of our equipment out of the elements. That's a couple $1,000s. A slide-out tray, it's a couple $1,000. Lights and sirens, that adds up. But I do have a quote that I could provide to you guys so you can see where I got the number from. Radios, they're about $6,000 a piece. Installed, there's an install cost. Currently we don't have any radios in the car, so that would have to be a new install. So that would be three mobile radios for each of our vehicles. And then the in-car computers would be tablets similar to like the police department uses. They're designed for being taken in and out of cars, or tough books they're called. You can drop them, beat them up, because we're not the most delicate people. Also with mounts in the vehicles.
Okay.
Just one item on that. If you did get those laptops with vehicles, you need a budget line for data to run the.
Yeah.
software,
So
right?
currently the town already uses SDL. For you,
No, I mean
for service for the
for
tablets,
service,
yes.
right. Yeah, so that would be something to consider. So that might be what we'd have to consider for the operation in a future year or, pull it from somewhere else, for the point being. I think Councilman Roman's point on that $90,000 thing, I think at this point, it's probably about time for our convention to get a vehicle that it's not, a hand-me-down, especially something with a pickup truck. But if we were to give you a number, would you be able to, perhaps go and use your network to try and find a solution if we said, okay, this is what we could spend on a pickup truck this year? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, I could shop around, get some more quotes. I'll be honest, it's rounded up a little bit, but not really astronomical. We could do it if we wanted to break it down over 2 years, get the vehicle upfit it, minimally, and then the next year go with the cap and the bed slide and stuff like that. But
Yeah, you can always tell your vendor, the Big Bad Town Council is saying, like, you got but now it does actually work. So now that I'm saying that in public, but just putting that out there and looking, if you had to pick one of these three requests, which would be your
the vehicle would be, they're getting old. They're, like I said, they're used police cars. Also, I'd like to note that this would be a 500 vehicle for its entire life. It wouldn't be a used cop car that we would keep for 3 or 4 years. It'd be down at, truck's garage getting worked on when they break down. This one, would be ours, I would say at least 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any possibility of storing that inside? Is there room in the firehouse?
I don't know. I mean, it would need to be available for like emergency response to incidents. So I don't know if parking it behind a fire engine or something like that would be, because not all the fire engines always go out. So I would like it parked out. And it would also get used daily for inspections.
It's thought for longevity sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deputy Mayor?
Matt, how many vehicles do you have now?
3.
There's 3. Okay. And will you be replacing just one of the 3, or are you gonna use, since it's a newer vehicle, would it be, since you're part-timers, do you alternate and, okay, the truck's there, morning for one person, afternoon for the next?
So our schedule allows the inspectors to work when they can. There is no, I don't require them to work certain days, but so some days there's 4 of us in the office and we're short a vehicle. Other days there's just 1 of us in the office. So it really varies. This vehicle would replace our oldest vehicle. Then again, this would be, purpose built specifically for to carry all the equipment that we use for fire investigations. This would be the only one of its kind in our fleet. I'm not going to ask in a couple of years for another large pickup truck. This would just be a
Note that.
Kevin's already noting it. So the computers we're talking about, obviously it would speed things up for you, less time in the office, you can get in the car, type stuff in the computer. It's I can relate to that with my work. I put it all on my phone and I can send out a report. Maybe we break it down where we get the vehicle now and you just keep it the same routine and worry about computers, depending on the cost, if they're not that much, but maybe we can do the computers in the second year down the road.
absolutely.
That's a thought. So,
Any other questions?
Thank you,
All right.
Matt.
Matt, thank you for everything you do, and thank your crew for us as well.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move up to tab 12 for fire department. Nick?
Chief Paulsino, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
This is another budget that has remained flat. I'll let Nick speak. Do you have a copy of your capitals?
Yes.
Okay. About the capitals as well as the budget.
Briefly on the budget, so a little background on the fire department. We are comprised of about 60 members right now. So that is including regular members who are state certified, can go in, fight fires, they can drive fire trucks. We also have auxiliary members to our department, which they may not be able to fulfill all the requirements of a regular firefighter. They might not be able to go into fires, but they can participate. They can train with us. They can go on fire calls. They can assist with us. All members are issued full sets of protective equipment, which is becoming more and more challenging to get everyone outfitted. Federal requirements are changing the lifespan of protective equipment, even for those younger junior members. So that's something we're dealing with right now. Last year, mayor and council afforded us funds to go out and buy computer software. So I'm partially embarrassed to say that in 2025, we are leaping into the 21st century with technology. But that's something that Matt is my assistant chief, that we're working very diligently on this year, is to get our computer software up and running. So we have the software purchased. It's currently communicating with the police dispatching system. So we're in good shape there. But there are going to be, things we mentioned here in Capitol that are going to be important to keep that interface running and keep that interface up to speed with everything it can do for the township, as well as federal reporting that's required of us. So, that's a big thing for us moving forward, is continuing to expand that software network. Any questions?
If you want to go to your capital.
Okay, on the capital, I have money in here for fire medic tools and personal protective equipment. So I touched on briefly the personal protective equipment. A full set of turnout gear, excluding a helmet, is about $4,000 per firefighter. So a new member that comes on is not issued new gear. They are issued hand-me-down gear. The new gear goes to, on a seniority level, firefighters that are more active fighting fires. And then as a member graduates, passes fire academy, then, if their percentage is in accordance, they're issued new turnout gear. So far this year, in just over 2 months, we've brought 2 members on as probationary that will hopefully go through the fire academy this year and get promoted to regular membership. We have 1 township employee that just last week joined our auxiliary program. We have 2 high school kids right now who are in the final stages of their physicals and applications with the town to become auxiliary members. And additionally, we have a father in town who's got kids in the school system who is going through the process as well to become an auxiliary. So in a 2-month span, we've had 6 new faces come into our department. And one of the things we're struggling right now is to get them equipment. We don't have enough helmets. We don't have enough boots. Our pants have holes in them. Our jackets are torn and ripped. It's the stuff is getting beat up. Last year was very active in this town with fires. We had to, Mayor, you were at the one incident on Valhalla. We had to bring in a company to professionally clean and decontaminate our gear. So it took a beating last year. So, we need to replace, we need to add to what we have, and we need to make it stretch. 6 members in 2 months, hopefully that number stretches to over 10 members for the total year. That's a good problem to have, but still we need to outfit everybody and make sure they're outfitted, safely and correctly. Computer software. So again, I mentioned we purchased the software. We're hopeful within the next month or 2 to get the software up and running. Again, it is communicating with the police dispatch system, which is great, but there are additional modules and things we're looking to purchase. Before township manager was talking about solar panels, that's a module that we could put in, identify buildings in town with solar panels. With some of our newer structures in town, the Verona Flats, the fire department's been up there 3 times since January, training. There's a ton of information about these new construction buildings that we can build into our computer software that it can help us on the scene, it can help us with reporting, it can help us with training. So it really affords us a lot of things. Currently, the program that we have, Red MX, Cedar Grove Township is using it, Montclair Township is using it. There's several other throughout Essex County using it, and towns, municipalities all throughout the country are using the program. So it's something we're really excited about.
Matt, sorry, Nick, can I clarify? So the request that's in here is $50,000 for the rescue tools.
Well, what we did, I sent it back to Jim. We broke it down into fire medic tools and personal protective equipment.
So what's the breakdown of each?
So personal protective equipment, I'm putting at 20,000.
Okay.
That would afford us 5 sets of brand new gear this year.
Okay.
And then 30,000 would go toward fire medic tools. So what we looked to do with that was spread that differently instead of allocating it all to rescue tools, as we did receive a new set of rescue tools last year, which worked really good for us. We've noticed in our training up at the flats that we need some additional high-rise equipment, some different nozzles, some different hoses, some different appliances and applications. With the building coming on Spectrum 360 property, that's going to present a lot of the same concerns. So we need to kind of shift our focus into what type of equipment we're purchasing. So less redundancy and more, going outside of the typical scope of Verona firefighting.
This was just for a little history on this. I think last year you had asked for 100K. The council giving you 50. This is the other 50.
Yes.
For that. So this is not a brand new request. This is the remainder of what had gone up last year. But I applaud you for looking at that number and figuring how you can best fit the needs that you currently have.
And then, sorry,
Go ahead.
the last item we have in here is fire department radio equipment. So with Matt's help and expertise, our radio system that we're currently operating on was implemented in 2017. Since then, we've had no major upgrades or work done to our radios or our radio system within the fire department. We did notice last year that we're beginning to see some lifespan issues. We probably went through 15 new batteries that we purchased last year out of operating budget. Our pagers are beginning to fail. Our lapel microphones are beginning to fail. So we're seeing some wear and tear. We're seeing some age on the radio equipment. The new units, as we talked about earlier, about $6,000 a piece. So what we're looking to do, due to the lifespan of the equipment, Motorola themselves will no longer service it. We would have to go to a third-party vendor who can come in and basically analyze our equipment for us. So each one of these portable radios is basically a computer. So it's got computer software, it's got chip, it's got a health span to it. So we want to determine how healthy is our radio system. We've been working on replacing pagers and batteries and accessories, but do we need to start thinking about replacing radios? Again, that's a huge ticket item if we have to replace 15 at one time. So if we can break this over, a couple of year span and maybe get 2 a year, replace what's good, get out what's bad, and continue that every couple of years. So we don't have to hit at once with one big line item to replace a bunch of them all at once.
So this you're talking about, this is a 2026 objective.
Well,
I don't see anything in 2025 for this. For the radio equipment. Am I missing something?
Stuff that I added in.
Yeah, we don't have anything for radio.
So this,
They don't, yeah, they don't have
Okay.
your,
okay,
So what is the number on that?
so
hold
we
on
had
a second.
computer software at 15.
On your sheet, you had fire department tools for the 50.
Yep.
And the fire department computer software for 15. So the total is still 65 for all of this that he's discussing currently. He's just breaking it down separately.
The radio, you said the
Yes.
radio piece.
Yeah, so what we did with fire department software, where it's 15,000 on your sheets, we changed that to 4,000. And we took that balance of 11,000 and added in a new category, radio equipment. So that we could take that 15,000 and better allocate it to what our needs are.
So just one point on this, I think, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Obviously, we knew Councilman Roman was probably the only councilman on when this system went into place that there would be a time when we had to keep reinvesting, right? But I think that the proper, and this is my opinion, not necessarily the council, but I would like to hear from Chief Kiernan on this because the chief coordinates the radio system for the entire town. And if we had a needs assessment, it would probably make sense to do it for every department, right, to figure it out, rather than do them piecemeal, which probably costs us more money. So, Chief, I'm volunteering you to speak on this topic.
Just briefly interject, what the mayor said about the strategy with the radio system is very much correct. When we went into buying this, the town used to have over 200 handheld radios. Every single crossing guard was issued one. We had a ton of units, and we specifically made a choice to get just what we need, knowing in future years we would have to add to the equipment collection a bit, just because these on a per unit basis are so much more expensive than the old EDAX radios we used to have. So, right.
I was there. Chief?
Good evening. Yes, we have a meeting scheduled with our radio consultant who actually brought us into the state system. We've scheduled that with the consultant. Spoke to Mr. O'Sullivan about it, and police, fire, rescue, DPW will all be in attendance when we talk about our needs moving forward and the life equipment. Rather than go to Motorola, we figured we would get our needs and really compartmentalize what we really do need.
So this is all happening at once. The $11,000 that the fire department is asking for this purpose is part of an overall project base.
But that would be to temporarily replace some radios. As far as the big, that would be a 2026 capital.
Okay.
Because it potentially could be much larger for the township.
All right, Chief, thank you. Anybody else for the chief? This chief, we have a lot of chiefs. Yes, Council.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for everything you do, and it's great to hear that the department is growing.
Yes.
That's that's really good news
Yeah.
because certainly we want to keep the volunteerism up and obviously, people need the right gear. There was a grant that you received last year of 100 and almost 40,000. Can you just detail like how that was spent and what that went towards as we were talking about capital needs, for this year, the last year, how was that grant applied in your department?
So that was your dollars that came in from FEMA, as well as which you were from 2022
Yep.
and for 2024.
Okay.
So the 70,000 was spent on turnout gear,
Okay.
as well as I believe a washer and dryer,
A washer.
a washer.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
The $20,000 that was received late last year, that came in December of last year.
Oh, great.
So they are working on spending that money now.
That money was allocated for hose.
Oh,
So
right.
we actually have fire hose within our township from the 1970s,
Yes.
which amazingly passes testing every year. But obviously, if we rolled it to your house, you'd probably want us using something a little more modern or something a little more newer. So we do have those grant monies available for that, which are earmarked for that.
Great. And obviously, with some of these capital needs, it would be great if we could find more grants, for them. So we'll have to see what the future holds.
Thank you,
All right,
you and
thank
your
you.
members. Appreciate being here tonight.
Just wanted to say thank you. I know the fire department had unfortunately a very busy year. With a lot of actual, serious structural fires and so on. So thank you for your service to the community and also thank you for your efforts in this budget. I see a lot of strategy to manage money effectively. So I really appreciate that.
Thank
Next, we're gonna do the rescue squad. The rescue squad does not have a tab because as you may remember, that one is just a one line item for their clothing stipend, but I'm gonna have Ricky come up anyway. That way he can also discuss his capital requests. But in the budget, it's 65,000 for the clothing allowance stipend.
And then we had two other things that were one for us.
Closer.
Just
Close up.
going to note for the record that Councilwoman McGrath and I will remain silent during this part of the meeting because of our associations with Rescue Squad. Deputy Mayor,
You got it.
No,
the Deputy Mayor has the chair.
these are your two for 2025, and then you have future.
We try to plan just to keep, am I on? So,
You're good.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
I know I'm loud enough on a baseline, but I figured I would just check anyway. So just to give a big background story for the rescue squad, over the last 10 years, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth and response. This last year was actually our busiest year we've had since pre-2020, which, anything pre-2020, we were very, very busy, and then people kind of understood what real emergencies were. But as the population has grown, we still are getting a lot less of the nuisance calls, but we're still increasing in volume. On the other side, the drain on neighboring resources has never been lower. We used mutually less than 10 times last year, which means we couldn't provide an ambulance, so another town came to cover the call. And in our particular instances, almost all of them, bar maybe one or two of them, was because we're out of ambulances. Because we found as mechanical issues start to happen, and I'm sure all the other departments can find, parts are just impossible to get. So something innocuous breaks on one of our vehicles, they're down for 3 weeks, and that's just the problem everyone's kind of going through. Like our starter went on our 25-year-old ambulance. And I mean, it's really one of our frontline vehicles. It has a great engine. We rebuilt it. It works great. But just that lead time. So we've already gotten it approved in the past because of the lead time on new vehicles for a new ambulance. But we plan on keeping all this ambulance as a reserve piece just because of downtime. Because every time a vehicle goes out now, it's gone for a long period of time. And in the state of New Jersey, EMS is just not a necessary service by law. It is not a service that needs to be provided by the township. So depending on where you are in New Jersey, what you're going to get when you call 911 can be vastly different. The average response time across the state's like give or take 20 minutes. It can go up as high as 40 or as low as 5, and it goes across rural and urban areas. Urban has higher volume, less resources. Rural areas have less resources, but a lower volume. But it all kind of comes out in the wash on the averages. What I'm driving to is we're very blessed in Verona. Our volunteers, by numbers, we're at about 150. We probably have between 60 and 80 what I would call full-time volunteers, then about between 30 and 50 what I would call part-timers, and then per diems and affiliates, which are basically people that were members at one point that live and work in the town, help out when they can, but due to one reason or another, they can't give a full-time commitment. It could be they're, a chief in a different department, an officer in a different department, they can only give us what they can give us. But it's kind of a hodgepodge between all of our active riders and then also our auxiliary members that help with the fundraising. As far as capital requests go, as everything's gotten so much dramatically more expensive, the larger ticket items have started to come to the council over the last decade or so, because we just can't fundraise enough to both keep our operation running and buy large ticket items. Up until Rescue 8, which is our, I guess, middle ambulance now, the squad paid 51% or more of the ambulance, and the town kicked in the rest. And with Rescue 8 going forward, it was just not sustainable for us to raise that money to buy an ambulance. And because we don't have any really true income on paper, getting a loan is very impossible, or it's very non-economical, I guess would be the best word for it, because the interest rates are just ridiculous. And I only know it's because some of the other agencies in the area do have to take out loans on their vehicles, and the interest rates are just crazy, especially when you can't show an income or a credit score and all the stuff that goes with that. So the two ticket items you have in front of you, one is for a CPR device. It's basically an automatic compression device. I could bore you with the science. I'll bore you a little bit, but I'll save my whole soapbox speech for a different time. Cardiac arrest is something that for every minute you're down, you have 10% less chance of survival until compressions are started immediately. There's about 5 chains of survival. 3 of them we can affect. One is early identification and compressions, early activation, emergency response, early defibrillation. So the town does a good job of placing AEDs throughout the town. Within the last year, we started providing community CPR classes free of charge to the community, run by our members at no cost to the community. Because frankly, the more people that know CPR, the better chance you have of survival. In Kings County in Washington, where Seattle is, they have an enormous community-based CPR program, and that's why if you drop dead of a witness cardiac arrest, you have like a 70% chance of survival. Copy and paste that somewhere else, it's like 20%. And it really is time is heart, time is muscle. So these original CPR devices we rolled out about a decade ago. We initially bought 2, one for the police department, one for us, and then with every ambulance, we've rolled in a new one into the overall bonding cost to ease the burden on the town. However, technology has changed. Every 4 or 5 years, the AHA rolls out a new CPR protocol, and things have improved, and so did the devices. So the current device we have works wonderfully, all things considering. The next version of the device has come out with more AHA standards. It looks very similar. It has just a suction cup on it, which may seem very innocuous, but it actually helps cardiac refilling by about 5%. And when someone's life, 5% is a lot of leeway to play with. And the reason we have one on all of our vehicles plus one for the police department is that whoever gets there first uses it. And then if another one happens while we're on it, we have additional pieces to go where we need to go. And there's a whole list of good reasons for it. After the first rescuer does 2 minutes of CPR, they're no longer as effective as the machine. You only have 2 people on a crew, 2 cops, you're getting 8 minutes of good CPR before you're doing less than effective CPR. So that's why both the police department and the squad are trained to put it on quickly and rapidly once all the rescuers are depleted. But also in tight quarters, patients that have different kinds of things that need to be treated at the hospital, which is very few and far between because the paramedics that come from the hospital provide everything the ER does. Short of like hypothermia and a couple other odds and ends things, we work them at home. But if we do need to move them or they do rearrest, it stays on them for transport. So if they go into cardiac arrest again, we can immediately start compressions again and take that chance of success and revival to be much higher. So I know it seems like a large ticket item, but it's kind of like what do you put on a value of a citizen's life when it comes to the compressions? They do a really good job. And as someone who's not necessarily completely convinced when they first came back into vogue, watching it on a patient that has an A-line that's hooked up to a monitor, it does really good CPR. And I can't understate the necessity of them. And over the years, they've taken their damage, carrying patients with them, using them on patients they break. We've broken pieces off. We've, fixed stuff up best we can. But we got 10 pretty decent years out of them. And we have seen a little bit of a rise in CPR patients, which really is our end goal. And that's by having these devices, having community responders, having the vehicles, partnering with the police department, and doing the community CPR classes.
So you have 1 per vehicle?
Yeah, we have 1 in every vehicle.
And 4 vehicles?
1 in every ambulance, and then 1 in one of the police cars.
Are you looking to replace all 3?
The goal would be to replace them all because if we're going to bring it up to standards, we don't want to have mixed matching pieces. That's kind of the big rub of it.
And I don't have it in front. How much are they per?
They are 60,000 each, or sorry, 66,000 total. They would come out to be about $3 grand and change each. I will tell you though, we got them last time from a vendor that's in the area, and they usually are pretty good about throwing in so many AEDs per life arm if we negotiate with them. And what we did last time was we basically got extra AEDs for the township in with all of the life arms. And more AEDs in the town is just better for the whole community as a whole.
I'm sorry, what is the actual count of devices that this $66,000 would buy us?
And we get four.
Four
to five.
4 life arms and then life arms and then possibly AEDs.
Yeah, possibly AEDs, and then all like the extra stuff that comes with it, because depending on what type of battery it is, the battery life of our current batteries, all the extraneous stuff that comes with it, it's probably a little bit high, but when it comes to medical devices, I always aim a little bit higher. I'd rather come under budget than ask for more money, as a rule. I don't think it'll be quite that much, but I'd rather shoot a little bit high because most of these devices just goes up as time goes on.
Next,
Oh, I thought you had- Well,
anybody else have a question?
so the other
You've
thing,
explained it very well.
I'm very passionate. It's one of my big soapboxes. I've done almost all my papers for my masters on community-based CPR programs. That's why when the kids wanted to start one up, I didn't have the time to teach it, but I'm happy to organize it. I mean, we do it. We've offered CPR training to anyone that wants it. And like I said, it's free of charge. And something that's kind of crazy to me is the healthcare provider classes can cost between like 50 and $100 per student. Just for the community-based one for like residents, that's very down, dirty, and basic. Still costs $25, $30, $40. And I don't think life-saving training should be at a cost to anyone, in my opinion. That's part of our job. The second line item I have is our SUV EM4, which is at the same age as I think it would be the Assistant Chief's Explorer we bought almost 10 years ago. And we're looking to replace it with a pickup truck because we've been going a lot more both within the township and within the state. The background behind that is on top of providing services to the township, we're part of the NJ EMS task force. We're also very active in the county of providing mutual aid, as well as we supplement both county coordinators for EMS, as well as the state first aid council president that oversees all the first aid squads for the state. We're also one of the oldest, actually we are the oldest 24-hour volunteer organization in the state as far as EMS goes. The last one that had its beat out, shut its doors about 2 years ago now.
I just have a question. You want to replace the Explorer. With a pickup, is it,
I'm getting there.
what's the benefit of a pickup over the Explorer?
I promise you I'm driving to that point. So my plan is not necessarily to get rid of the Explorer, it's just to supplement the fleet because we want to use it until the wheels fall off. But that is a lot good for getting people where they need to go, a first responder vehicle, people to take home. The need we have is, last year I believe we did somewhere to the tune of almost 40 standbys throughout the township. And when we do a standby, we have to drive a lot of equipment into a vehicle. Some of the standbys are longer notice, we have a little more set of time, some are not. Either way, we end up committing an ambulance that cannot break or leave. And that is bringing the chairs, the tents, and all the other stuff that goes with it, extra bags, all the fire rehab equipment. By being able to store that in a solitary location, we can bring that to where it needs to be, bury that particular vehicle, and leave the ambulances free to go where they do. It's less vehicles. From the ambulance side, it's a much smaller vehicle. It's going to get closer to where it needs to be. And for lack of a better term, it's a lot harder to get stuck than an ambulance because you try to get anywhere it's grass or soft. Ambulances are very heavy and they're not very good off-road.
But do you put more of that equipment in a pickup truck rather than an Explorer? My reason
Yes.
is this, because just obviously if it's, you have bad weather and it's all that equipment's going to get wet.
So we would get a count on it. Since the price is about $60,000. It's for a pickup truck with a cap. All the specking out that comes with it for a drawer. It's to fit both tents, both sets of chairs, all the extra fire rehab equipment, all the standby equipment, and also just to be able to move larger equipment in it to different events that we go to. So we're not using the ambulances. The ambulances, even though they're giant rolling boxes, are not designed to be moving vans. We do damage stuff inside the vehicles by putting free equipment into it that gets bounced around. And it's just a lot of equipment that we need to then load in and out of the trucks when time is of the essence, especially for bigger events and standbys. Yeah, putting a cap on it, we can also put a small light tower on it, which isn't nearly as expensive as they used to be, to provide lighting near the scene. Because frankly, the fire department shops put the fire out and deal with the fire, but not necessarily light up other areas. We need to be able to light our own area and do what we need to do. Probably do rehab with that. The tents, fans, electricity for all of our equipment. We have a lot of other equipment that we can store on it that we kind of store everywhere in our building because we just constantly run out of space. There'd also be a tow hitch in the back for our bike rack to transport our bikes where they need to go. Because there's really not a graceful way to move our electric bikes except riding them. And if it's any request of them outside of Verona, they need to use their wheelies so they can bike to where they're going and then use them for what they need to use them for. But it's a multi-purpose vehicle that'll be much more of a special operations type vehicle versus the Explorer, which is more of a manpower moving vehicle. It's used to take people to EMT class because members are traveling farther and farther and farther to EMT class. We had 4 people graduate last year from East Brunswick. So between the tolls and travel and gas, it makes more sense before them in the Explorer. Go, but then we lose that vehicle and that utility while it's out of town for a variety of other events. And it also just comes down to having a pickup truck with like that plumber body on it, like the DPW has to store all the extra equipment tools on the side. It's just quicker access, easier access. And it's one less thing we're using the ambulances for instead of their design purpose.
It takes miles off the ambulance.
It does. I mean,
Less longer.
and
They're slightly more expensive than the pickup.
yeah, and I mean, in the grand scheme of things, our fleet is growing, but so is our volume. I mean, when I first joined, we were doing a hair over 1,000. Last year, we did about 1,550 requests for service. Our busiest year on record was 2019, which was about 1,800 calls for service. And just having that extra flexibility to both provide more vehicles in service, but also cover more things adequately as well.
How many calls last year?
I think the exact number is 1,507 requests for service, plus not counting all the extra classes and some of the standbys we do.
Anyone questions?
And just as an aside of stuff like we're not asking for, what we're providing ourselves, we constantly are seeking grants through both Millennium and our own, grassroots things. Big issue with a lot of our grants is we can't have any kind of fundraising company, which bars like certain larger companies from getting them, but we got grants for new radios. So we got about 5 new state radios. We got like $6,000-7,000 grant. And we try to use our grants to replace stuff so we don't have to ask the council. But once we start getting up above that $40,000-50,000, that's just a whole lot for us to absorb from our new budget.
Well, thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us tonight.
And we appreciate all the support the council does give us. We do.
Thank you.
The mayor has the share again.
We are going to move to number 13. Hopefully we can kind of keep everything else in order now. That's police.
Steve Kiernan. Steve Kiernan is wearing his white shirt, which is the sunny shirt.
Do you want to go over the salaries? The salaries have a difference on the top. Your main difference is your regular salary in number 1. Number 2 is your clerical, which is OPIU related. Number 3 is overtime, and then the rest pretty much stayed the same, and your operating stayed the same. So I'll let you go into that.
Sure.
Good evening again. The salary and wages page obviously is all contractual driven. The meter enforcement, which I call the utility people that we have, they are part-time, but they handle parking enforcement. They can assist with crossing posts as well as administrative duties, whether it be going to get a car that's being serviced or picking up equipment. So you'll see a increase in that. We also expanded parking enforcement as per the ordinance on Saturdays. The school guards came in about flat. We did add posts and there were raises that were implemented. Overtime was up partially due to increased wages, but if I were to give you the breakdown, which I will supply to you on overtime, the biggest hit was required training. So that's required training from the state. That accounted for 954 hours. Second was dispatch desk coverage. So the two biggest hits as far as overtime goes are requirement, training required, and then desk coverage. Turning to operating. Does anyone have any questions on salaries?
Does the staffing complement remain the same? Any breakage or anything?
So we are looking to add 2 officers this year. We have 2 officers retiring as well. But as far as increasing the TO, we're looking to increase by 2 officers.
To what number?
To 36.
What's driving the interest in increase?
increase in call totals. As well as increased time on each call. There's a lot more requirement from the state, which we are in favor of, obviously, for law enforcement, but it does tack time onto each call, whether it be new portals that we enter information into immediately, or different legislative, new legislation, I should say, for different types of calls and what needs to be done.
And both of those new position requests are at the patrol officer level? Or...
Correct. Correct.
And Chief, if you add those to the patrol division, would that reduce your overtime for training if you don't have to?
That would be the goal. That's laid plans.
So on the training, is that like a one-time blip, or that's the new steady state on how much training is required annually?
That is the new standard for training that is required from the state. We have our own, we're robust in officer training and education. So it is something that we take a lot of pride in, that our officers are highly trained, but the state has increased not only with the new requirements of licensing, they have more mandatory training, which includes now defensive tactics. There's a couple other things I could speak about in our annual report, things that we've added here, less lethal equipment into the officer, into the resources the officer has. There's also aside from the mandatory training, we also do best practices as far as training with online portal. We pay for a program for that. That's everything from bias based policing to leadership to legal updates to right to know, bloodborne pathogens, workplace harassment. We try to hit on all those. There's about 2 to 4 courses a month that each officer takes through the online portal. That is ours.
Chief, are we able, when we're talking about the your meter enforcement dispatch crossing, the 2 people who hold that position are former police officers, right?
That's correct.
And Councilwoman McGrath that brought up the zoning enforcement piece, and obviously we have had a difficult time in that department with our zoning officer being less available because our zoning secretary, we've had several zoning secretaries at this point. Is that somewhere where we could cross-train those officers at doing some zoning enforcement to handle some call-ins to?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. That would take them from their current responsibilities for parking enforcement.
So like if we get a complaint and they're working, that would make some sense that we could pull them from parking for a second, go and check on, somebody hasn't, cleared the ice off their sidewalk, which happens unfortunately more often than I would like in town. Or, something overgrown building maintenance that they could go over and, they have a car and do all that stuff and try to deal with some of those quality of life concerns that come in. And then leave kind of the actual enforcement of some of the other regulations that isn't necessarily quality of life issue back to the zoning department. Just thinking if we can help in that area, because it's something that we could definitely improve on as a township. I don't want to take them from here, especially when, they're doing a good job with the meter enforcement, but we had something come in, they could do that potentially. So
yeah, I'll discuss it with the stress Sullivan.
Just a thought that popped into my head on that. Sorry, go on.
Operating, we came in flat again. As far as some overages in my lines there were some. Actually, each overage I could explain. And when I say overage, that's in my lines, not overage in the total budget. Not go over budget last year. There's some one-time purchases or some end-of-life equipment that were thrown into a lot of these different categories. One that will probably jump out at you is vehicle leases. One, we only spent $115, and that was in motor vehicle fees. what happens is we've been, for the police vehicles when they're on side jobs, it's a fee that the town charges. We took in almost $60,000 last year from the companies that hired officers and used the vehicles. So we use that money to pay off the leases. I have money parked there for this year, just in case something changes as far as construction frequency or something drops off. But I was able to use that money to purchase equipment through the year. That's why that came out of there. Any questions on operating?
Capital? Or do you need to do dispatch or, yeah, Yeah, 14.
We could do capital, so. The capital sheet that you were provided a couple weeks ago, there's been some changes. From where. You received it to now. What Chris is going to present to you tonight, and I will get you all of the numbers, but he can go into. Those numbers now.
For capital requests, I have 2 vehicles, including upfitting for 160. Vehicles are anywhere from 45 to 51,000 apiece. There's about $28,000 in equipment and upfitting per vehicle. 173,000 for Axon. That's year 2 for our body worn cameras, dash cams, and tasers. There's a lot of programs that are included when we did sign on with Axon last year. We're actually going to do a presentation for the council on everything that has to offer, including a lot of community involvement pieces to the portal. Bulletproof vests, they're end of life January of 2026 for about 31 of the potential 36 officers. So that would be about 53,000. We do get grants for vests. We're exploring a couple other different avenues for grants, but you get about $2,000 a year based on our numbers. And a vest, outer carrier vest, can cost about $1,500 per officer with a 5-year life. You can see. I have $35,000 for service weapon replacement. We replaced our handguns in 2017. So we are just right around the manufacturer requirement for replacing the service weapon. We usually replace them in about 6 to 7 years, which does give us more money on trade-ins for the existing weapons. Alcohol test replacement, that is a New Jersey state mandate. That's 25,000. It's end of life. Our current alcohol test, other counties have switched over, and the full rollout throughout New Jersey will be in 2025.
What was the number again?
25,000. I have a gas mask request for gas mask replacement request, which would be 22,000. Our gas masks are about 12 years old. We've replaced canisters, obviously, to keep them within expiration date. And then
plastic. Some notes.
That does. And then a request for a Polaris utility vehicle of 52,000. What happens is when we have events, we borrow the Polaris vehicles from DPW or the community center as far as transporting officers and equipment around. We are looking at grants for that as well.
And the 2 vehicles, those are patrol vehicles.
Patrol vehicles.
What are they? They're SUVs, Explorers, Tahoes, what are we talking?
So it would be whatever we can get. We have a diverse fleet. Right now we have our oldest vehicle 7 years old. The ones with the highest miles, we have 2 vehicles with 65,000 miles, one with 55,000. Again, what we do with our vehicles when we take them out of service, we either put them in as construction vehicles, which are revenue generator, or we distribute them throughout the town to various other departments, then use them from DPW to fire prevention and code enforcement. As far as what I did not touch on was in overtime. I made myself a note and see it here. As far as grants, we received about 30,000 in traffic enforcement grants, which were used. That's everything from distracted driving, pedestrian safety, and DWI.
Let's go over. Which is well.
Tab 14.
Tab 14. So here on tab 14 is your dispatchers. Number one is they are under the OPIU contract as well. Part-time remained the same, shift differential stayed the same, and overtime was increased based on what they had used basically last year. I'll let you tell.
So part-time dispatch, we have per diem dispatchers, which is a great tool for us to backfill dispatch coverage. Again, when I started, it was you came to work and you had the desk that day, and that was it. Obviously, it's specialized now, and you need certifications to be a PSAP, to be a public safety access point. Per diems are great; they fill in everywhere we can as far as supporting desk coverage. But we did not, we spent more in overtime than we anticipated. With the 12-hour shift, sometimes it's a little more difficult to get a per diem for the full shift. So we did spend money in putting dispatchers on the desk in overtime. It's difficult, there's only 4. So depending on when the shift falls, you might have a choice of just one who's truly available. One's either coming off an overnight shift or due in the following day. So that number you'll see is higher than anticipated last year.
Questions on dispatch?
Is this what are the elements of like the career? Like, are people going into this as a career? Is there like a whole recruiting mechanism? Are you well staffed? It's just a hard thing to do with the length of shifts.
It's hard when we have 4 full-time because that works for us right now. Traditionally, people used to come into dispatch as a stepping stone into law enforcement, but it's such a specialized field now, and a very difficult field. I could never work dispatch. It's very, very stressful. It's very difficult, even in a small town like Verona. Our dispatchers are excellent. We have career dispatchers that we're very lucky to have based on a number of reasons. And we've kept them. We intend to retain them.
Okay, great.
But it is difficult based on there are 4 squads and a dispatcher for each. So there's not a lot of room for, say a 5th dispatcher in our budget right now. That maybe could fill the gap when you see, like the jail schedules where they work a weekend, 2 days in a row, week and things like that. But we're always looking at different angles to try to attack that number. But at some point, we'd love to be the hub and take on some other towns. Those talks are always
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You have anything more from?
I don't thank you more for the chief. Can we get an updated capital? Sure, yeah, there were some last minute changes, as you could see, so
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Tab 15, building and grounds.
Mr. Waterman. Evening, welcome. It's our favorite.
I just want to let you know, I'm only 44 years. I'm not in the long time, but mine's come to an end.
Yes. So salaries on top, you will see a slight change of $10,000 there. Again, contractual. On the bottom, there were some things that we moved from different departments. One of them was we moved 5,000 from recreation for cleaning supplies into this budget. The other one is, hold on 1 second. The other one.
That was cool.
To pull the other one.
We moved it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to read all my notes. And then last year, so the operating looks larger in a difference. You may or may not recall that you approved a transfer either late last year or early this year out of Lenny's budget because he did so well on keeping his money. So I had to move $35,000 out of his budget for another department. So that's why also you will see it kind of looks like a bigger difference on the bottom. But he originally did have around $228,000 in operating.
Lenny, is the overtime largely community events? Is that where that's?
That is most of it, yes, and the planning board meeting. Things like that. Our overtime is down because we now have a snow line that all our snow overtime goes on to the snow line.
That's fine.
Right. There's 3 employees, including myself. 2 work with me every day, and 1 is the custodian that cleans here and the library. They're both every full time. Yeah, I mean it's pretty basic service contracts. We have Otis Elevator has to come in. It's all state fire inspections. We have to get them through the state. We have to do. And operating and maintenance is their big one, and that's HVAC repairs, plumbing, and you know how everything's going up, prices. So that's basically it for that.
Capital?
Capital. There's cameras for $50,000, which we're putting in every year now. Last year we did, I believe it was 6 cameras at the community center and annex. But those 6 cameras, each 6 locations, I'm going to say, because some locations have 4. It's 1 camera with 4 views. So we did that, and then this year we want to do. That was phase 1. We want to finish phase 1 up there and replace the cameras on this building because they're 15 years old, 10, 15 years old. So we want to replace them. Now the number 50,000 is just we come up with a list of what we want. And then they give us a price on it. All right, it's too high. Let's take this one out. Let's take this one out. Let's get to the 50,000. That's how we're doing that. And the other one, we have 50,000 for municipal building improvements. That should be municipal buildings improvement. So whenever something comes up, like I know we need a new carpet down in the tax office. That'll come out of that. We have 4 pregnant women on staff now. We're getting to ready, 1 left already, and we're doing a lactation room downstairs, which I believe, I don't know if it's state code now, state law, but federal law, but we are doing that now, that we're doing sinks and cabinets and a place for them.
Finally.
Yeah, so that'll come out of that. And that's about it. Any questions?
Any questions? We'll start with Councilman Roman.
Just general question on the state of the township's buildings. I can ask you for like the long-term view. Are there major capital projects or needs coming up? Anything that concerns you?
We are having a company come in and do an assessment on all buildings.
Okay. I know about that one. I'm curious, your anecdotal, your thought, basically.
Town garage roof, we're in desperate need of. Community center needs a roof so bad, but we're waiting on the solar. Because they will do the roof for us if we get the solar, but we're putting Band-Aids on them left and right.
Right, the community center roof, right, we talked about that for a couple of years.
Yeah, you can see the shingles are like blowing off every time we get a windstorm.
Yeah, that one's probably in the back of my head.
Chuck's garage is getting more of the mechanics got an umbrella while he's working on the trucks.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Lynn, when you talk about camera.
Oh, hold on, I just want to get the capital on Holland first.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask about the cameras too. So you indicated that we've already installed at the community center and annex, we mean on the building itself?
On the outside of the buildings, yes.
So is there any plan for any cameras up around the upper field? And there's that bathroom complex.
That'll probably be phase 3.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to work our way up. And then we got to do every field when that gets done.
Okay.
So that's why we're putting 50,000 each year, just keep moving, keep it going.
Okay, but our expectation then would be, so you've already done the community center this year?
Not complete.
Okay.
We got with what we could with the money. We have to finish that phase.
So walk me through the next the phases, if you would.
Yeah, well, phase 1 was what we did at the community center. We get the playground, we get the Veterans Field, Centennial Field, we get the tower building, and we get the outside of all the annex and the community center. There's a couple doors that we want to get at phase 2 up at the community center where the employees go in and out. At night, you want to be able to see if someone's there.
For safety.
Then we're gonna go to replace the cameras around here.
That's 2.
That's 2.
Okay.
And then phase 3 will go up to the fields, whether we do Liberty Field and then next phase Freedom Field, depending on how the money, how it goes. And then after that, Everfield. Or we may do Everfield as it's built, so we put the conduits in and stuff like that.
Might as well put it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Putting that in the
$4
bid.
million
anyway.
And to save money, we're working with the contractor camera guy. We're running all the internal wires to the location, so he just comes and mounts the cameras and programs them all.
But I really appreciate it. There have been concerns expressed about vandalism at the different bathroom facilities
Right.
and the like. And, you know, we did invest a lot of money in the new playground at the community center, and the facilities up there. And we will be doing the same for Everfield. So I do appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, I was, cameras on phase 2 include the interior of the building here? Because I know we have cameras in the foyer.
I'm not 100% sure. I was looking at the outside ones. The inside ones are decent or no?
They're almost done.
Yeah, all right. So it will be inside and out.
I did take a walk around at the community center and the annex building. And obviously now since we have the filtration system up there, I noticed the camera on the back, so I was happy to see that.
Yeah.
And up at the other tower. So
And the police view all the cameras from their desk now, the dispatch desk, and their offices. They can view them.
That's great.
One thought on
helped me
this.
today.
I appreciate your phased in approach. Just something I would like everybody, you know, if you notice, we've been asking people to kind of phase in. On some of the camera things, especially for the Freedom and Liberty fields, I'm wondering if it might be wiser for us to put those in the next phase rather than kind of waiting for a phase 3. This is technology that doesn't seem to be getting any cheaper. Like it's not one of those, the cameras don't seem to be getting less expensive as the years go by.
I had also I was thinking along the same, sorry, I was thinking along the same lines, but I was thinking basically maybe we put cameras where we don't have them first before we replace EOL ones or something like that, because again, we're seeing, you know, we've had vandalism instances at the fields, and that's everybody's first question is, okay, well, do you check the cameras? And, you know, I'm just wondering if just maybe strategically we might, you know, that's up to the township to figure out what your needs truly are to best protect all of our assets, but.
I would rather spend 100,000 now to avoid the damage to potential if we have damage to facilities, especially if they're something that can alert in real time. You know, some cameras have motion sensor technology that can alert. So if somebody's on a field after 9 o'clock at night, if it sends an alert to the dispatch center and says, hey, you got somebody on the field, police officer can go up there and probably nip some of these things in the bud. I mean, the bathroom thing just absolutely astounds me that people just can't use the bathroom. You think that's something we learned very young, but anyway, I would rather honestly, and I know this is weird coming out of my mouth, but I would rather spend more money now on this project specifically and get us in a position where all of our property is being monitored.
Well, if you want to put more money in, we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's so odd that I'm the one saying here, spend more, but on this item, I think that it's probably something, honestly, I think we dropped the ball and we weren't the council at the point, but when Liberty and Freedom were put in,
Yeah,
that absolutely should have been part of the construction
we do have the fiber optics up there, so
to do.
that's half the battle right there.
Just a thought, because there is damage to those, you know, police are doing reports. Just makes sense to see if we can do some preventative work up there with the councilwoman, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, you know, is there an opportunity, or maybe it's too late on the pickleball courts, because that's gonna be another asset, you know, that we're gonna want to protect, and the pool, and then I believe the leader of the community garden also sent in a request as well.
Yeah, I talked to Carol.
Yeah.
That's a different system, but the police can view the cameras at the school.
Oh, okay.
So we could change that camera to like one of those 4-view cameras and probably get the garden.
Okay, good.
I'm sure you saw these at Leak Municipality. There are now some really great wireless camera technology that has like solar on. So instead of having to run the fiber optic for like the pickleball courts or even for the fields, if we put it on something like that, it could potentially save some of the installation cost because you don't need to be running fiber up the community pool parking lot or whatever. So maybe worthwhile looking at some of these alternatives that could tap into our system. But I think all of our assets should be protected at this point if we can and start working on that right away. And I would defer to Chief Kieran on that as well. I'm sure you guys talk about this, but like, what do we need to do right away, what they're seeing, their concerns as well, but I would honestly like everything, protected that we.
All right, so let's change that to 200,000.
I'm one of five, just pointing that out.
Do we have cameras at recycling?
Yes, we do have one, right? Good, we do.
Thank you, Lenny.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great night. Call me back.
Well, yeah, you're not going anywhere. You got pool too. Okay, Chuck, we're gonna move into you next, and then we'll come. I'm working my way down the list. Dave has to say pool too. So we're gonna go into tab 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Chuck, you always have the most tabs here.
Most times, Jen does all the talking.
Cost is a fortune,
Okay.
always.
All right, so tab 18 is street and highway. Again, the top for salaries, mostly contractual. In your regular line item, number 2 stayed the same, number 3 longevity stayed the same, number 4 overtime stayed the same. Reserve for storm trust, I increased it, not knowing that we'd have a storm every other day. This year so far. So that's probably going to not be enough, the 25,000, but hindsight being 2020 and storms. So that was increased with the intention of not having a snowstorm every day.
And winter's not over.
And
No more,
we're done. Yeah, we're moving on.
We're done.
So that is your salaries. We're okay on salaries. Then I'm going to flip the page to operating. The largest difference here is that we moved the flower baskets out of civic affairs and into street and highway. The thought process behind that, so that's number 12. That's your difference. The thought process behind that is Chuck is usually the one that handles landscaping and flower bid. So we took it out of there and put it into this budget. The only other difference is we also moved $10,000 out of this budget, lots of moving, and put it into vehicle maintenance.
Right.
Because the vehicles have been costing more and more money
Prices of everything is just going up.
in general. So that is your major differences for tab 18 under street and highway. If you know questions about that one, I'm going to turn the page to engineering. Engineering was $27,000 last year. It shows 22 because we've transferred out 5 in one of those transfer resolutions that was approved earlier this year. So this remains the same under engineering. Tab 19 for shade tree. Shade tree, the only major difference here, we combined 4 and 5 so that Chuck can do with what he needs to do between pruning, removal of trees, and repairs. The only new addition here is number 9, which is the forester, which is something that we haven't previously budgeted for, which now is in this budget. Flipping to tab 20, vehicle maintenance. Discuss the increase here is the $10,000 that was moved from street and highway. Operating to vehicle maintenance to cover the additional costs of the
Course going up.
and you have tab
It's like,
21 is recycling. The top is your salary and wages, which didn't change too much. I had budgeted a little bit more in temporary and seasonal, unknowing, again, hindsight being 2020, we had lost a person who passed away. So unknowing that was going to happen in 2025, I had bumped it up, but again, not knowing that we were going to lose an employee. So that's the only major difference on the top. On the bottom, you will see a slight increase in mixed recycling and newspaper, just based on what we spent, what was trending, spent in 2024.
Councilwoman Brown?
So what is going on there with the mixed recycling and newspaper? Is it, are we recycling more?
More, we're picking up more.
Okay.
More of it. I mean, the price did go up a little bit, we get rid of it, but we're picking up more of it. More people are recycling, we get more down the recycling center. That's what the price is.
And then we had the whole education tagging program. So how are we doing with our fines? And
Oh, we've been good.
We've been good.
We've been good. We haven't, I don't think we haven't gotten, we maybe got 1 fine, 2 fines this year tops.
Okay, so that's working out.
Yes, it's working very good.
And just roughly, again, for the public, the difference in cost for us, yes, it costs us to haul away recycling, but it's less than hauling away garbage. So what's that roughly
It costs a
differential?
third. It costs a third. I mean, you pay, say, $80 a ton to get rid of it in the garbage, and we're paying $37 a ton to get rid of it in recycling.
Right.
So that's what, it's not that you're making money, it's a cost of fur that you're not putting into the garbage stream.
Yeah, okay, great. So recycling
Saves us money in the long.
saves us money.
Saves us money. But our coordinator, Lenny, is always,
As long as recycling is clean.
right.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you realize Lenny bought in clothing.
Yeah, there's a book drop down there, the depot now. They're gonna drop money for that.
Yeah.
And of course,
You want to go over your capitals?
Whatever you want to do, Apple, you want to do in the store, whatever you want to do.
We're not at water and sewer yet. Don't rush them. You gotta stick around longer. Okay, go over your capitals. Here you go.
The first couple are normal, our sidewalk capital, 25,000 to replace sidewalks raised by shade trees. Our catch basin capital, 25,000 to repair catch basins throughout the town. The tree planting, I don't know if you're grouping that with the one that,
Carol's is separate.
Okay, so-
Carol's is it's the very last line. She had requested 75,000 per year for 5 years.
Just
So
to
hers is
clarify
at
for
the
the
bottom.
public, that's shade tree.
I'm sorry.
That's
Yes,
shade.
sorry.
so 25,000 for tree planting for any trees that were taken down. Every time we take down a tree, we ask the homeowner if they would like one back, and most of the people say yes. Our normal stormwater cleaning, we've done the whole town once. It took us 3 years to do the whole town. We'll start all over again. My paint machines, one machine's 41 years old, the other one's 23 years old. I'm looking to upgrade my 2 new paint machines, to get 2 new paint machines that we use to paint the fields and curbing and all that kind of stuff. Looking to add a 3rd lift in my garage for my mechanics. We have 2 now. I'm looking at a 3rd one. My 3rd one would be more of a portable lift, so I could roll into my big bays to use it on my big machines, and my big trucks. That's roughly 100,000. And I desperately need to replace trucks. I mean, thank you, you gave me 2 trucks this year. But my newest piece of equipment is 7 years old. Not counting the 2 I got this year. I desperately need to replace trucks. I'm looking to replace like 4 of my trucks this year.
Which one?
Where's that?
It's the second one. It's the second one down, the Mason dump
Oh.
trucks.
Well,
2.
we just did the Mason, or these are 2 more Mason stuff.
Yes, I'm looking to do more Mason dumps and more pickups. My trucks, as of now, I don't know if you know, I rehab the greenhouses. So I
Yeah.
store a lot of stuff in the greenhouses. Now all my trucks are in the building. They never were in the buildings before, so now we're keeping them inside, which makes a big difference.
So you're talking 2 Mason dumps, 2 pickup trucks?
Yes, or 2. I'm gonna sit with my mechanic and go, I wanna get rid of my worst Ford truck. You know, it costs us a lot of money. Our dossier system tells me what I'm spending each year on a truck. What truck is costing me the most, and that's what I wanna replace.
Yeah, so you can give your Mason dump to fire prevention, which
Here we go.
fire prevention will drive that around.
And we'll give one of the pickups to the rescue squad.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
They're covered. But I'm looking to replace 4 or 5 this year, possible.
Glenn, you want the 3rd?
I'm in good shape.
It's good, we got Lenny good trucks.
The la-
How is your salt dome doing?
Salt dome is excellent, it was the best investment we ever made. It was excellent all year, a matter of fact, twice the county cut off other towns. We just kept right on going. So that's a very good investment. Thank
That
you.
was good foresight on that.
The only other thing, I'm sorry, is the paving of the Verona Community Center.
We talked
parking
about
lot.
with the well being done and the playground being done. We've been talking with Kevin about it needs to be repaved.
It's a minefield.
That parking lot is in very rough shape.
Very well, but we haven't done it due to the work we're doing.
We trenched it for things and,
Right.
yeah.
Right. We, speaking with Lenny and Kevin, we want to trench and put conduits all over the place. So if you want to add electric parking in different areas, we could do that all in-house and then just have them come in and mill and pave. Last year's price under the co-op was about $225. I don't know if it went up.
Probably.
Okay, but that was the mill and pave the entire, every parking lot. And there's a few things the chief wants to go over about changing direction of traffic to try to ease things down. He has some ideas with striping and curbing and different stuff we want to add in there. So 225 might be a little on the low side.
Yes.
I will say, when we do it, just a thought, and Chief may have thought of, but maybe a raised crosswalk. I was there on Saturday and that playground was packed. It was great to see. But a couple of people parked one side and they're walking straight across from the community center from the basketball games to there. And you're coming up the hill. That'd be nice if people saw that and slowed down.
Raised or paint or something. But Chief has some ideas already with changing the traffic flow and crosswalks and different things and adding curbings.
Nice.
So that's definitely like to get done this year.
Any more questions? Yeah.
I just want to add that this is the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee's favorite conversation, which is the flow of traffic in that parking lot. So they're already heavily engaged, but the chief knows that.
The chief knows it.
Incorporates their
We've been talking about it
feedback.
for a couple of years. And he has some ideas that we went over already.
Yeah.
Different things with striping and painting and bump out curves and different things like that.
And I just want to add, and I hope the Shade Tree was invited to this conversation, but I just want to say they're doing tremendous work. And a lot of very critical maintenance work occurred this year with that $75,000 investment. They need it again. There's a lot of shade trees that need a lot of work. I think the new tree company is really working out, Dujet's. And I've seen a noticeable number of, things being taken care of. And in terms of shade tree planting, they're really going to not just, handle, there's a normal wear and tear where you're asking the homeowners if they want one, people can request a shade tree, but also looking strategically at some areas in town that are just really bare. And really, they're thinking through ideas of approaching whole blocks, provided again, we have the budget, and this may be a project for next year or the year after, but really trying to reforest some areas of town.
That's what they're trying to do out of their 75,000. My 25,000 is strictly for trees taken down.
Yeah.
Take down a tree in front of your house. I have a list pending every year. I don't do the whole list.
Yeah.
But every tree I take down, you get a notice, would you like a new shade tree? And that's what you try to plant. I must have maybe 17 left from last year that I started planting it.
That's great. Yeah.
But that's their idea with their 75 to
Yeah.
do the project you're talking about.
And looking at different species and the age of trees and being more strategic on reforestation. We have a whole section of town that's called Forest Avenue, and there's other sections of town. You can see from the heat maps that are available how hot the whole FM Brown section is. And that's the area that has the least amount of shade trees. So we can be really strategic there. I'm really excited for them. And I appreciate that they're now, for the first time in years, going to be at full strength with your appointment tonight as with the alternate. So it's real exciting.
Before we move on to water and sewer, Chairwoman Thomas of Shade Tree is actually on Zoom. Carol, if you want to add anything, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call you in at this point. But you can do that anytime. We can come back to you if Chuck wants to keep going. You don't have to say anything, Carol. You're good. Put you on the spot. I think Councilwoman Grath did this summary, but just pop that virtual hand up if you want to add anything while we do water and sewer. Yeah, Chuck.
Well, we'll move into on number 23. Chuck also handles the bottom line in recreation, which is fields. So that's a singular line in tab 23, town fields. We budgeted 50 last year. We projected 65 this year. We discussed doing more field maintenance.
More field maintenance, and the stuff we need to buy is more expensive. The line and the diamond dry and stuff like that, that's all going up, and doing some more field maintenance. And I remember we take care of all the fields, including the school fields, the turf fields, we do them all. So that's why we like to up that to 65.
Did you want to finish current Or did you want to move into water and sewer and bounce back to current? After.
Oh, whatever you want, Jen.
Oh, you want to just keep going? All right. All right, then we'll go to tab 27, which is water and sewer. And then we'll bounce back. For 2025, we are proposing a $8,075,000 budget for revenue and expenses. Which you will see broken down in the budget summary. On the top, you will see that our rents with our rate study, our rents did increase in 2024. And I was able to then reduce our fund balance used in 2025 or projected to be used in 2025, which is the $8,075,000. On the bottom of the first page is the appropriation summary total, but we'll get into if we flip the page. The first page is salary and wages, again, contractual OP by OPIU. Major difference, let's see, major difference was sewer regular. The sewer plant is, I've been told, understaffed. So we have discussed lack staff in that area.
Circle there used to be 12 guys and a supervisor. Now we're down to 7 guys and basically me overseeing.
Yeah.
So speaking with Jen and Kevin, I'd like to hire 2 guys this year, another guy in 26, another guy in 27, another guy in 28, get our staff back to where it should be. We're putting a lot of money into the sewer plant. I need guys to maintain it. There has to be greasing and changing oils and fixing belts, and we just don't have it. 7 guys there now just put out fires every day. They do their normal work and fix whatever breaks.
So do you have someone that would be in line at some point to take on that supervisory role?
The 2 people,
your time is very valuable to this township, and we need to make sure that we're using it in the best way possible for everybody. You're only working like 80 hours a week, so we'd like to get you down to maybe 65 to hold on to you for a while.
that's part of our plan. There's no succession plan down here. So as we go on hiring, the next 2 guys we're looking to hire, we're not looking to bring in laborers. We're looking to bring guys in with a little bit of more qualifications. Maybe have to pay them a little more money, but they could start taking over running the plant and the succession plan down there. There was never a succession plan, so right now there's nobody. It's just the guys that work there and Joe and Dave, they're just doing a bang up job. But we have to come up with a plan. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, you will have retirement there. I don't know if some of these guys don't want to retire, it seems like,
I mean,
but
we got a couple of years with Joe. I mean, Joe and Mike Wilson
next
over the
5
next 2
years.
guys here, within our next 5 years, Joe and Mike Wilson will be going. But hopefully we hire the right people, we start training them now, and the next 5 years, there's people to take over.
That's good foresight.
In the next page is your operating. One new line that we added was number 11, which is your well costs. The well coming up online this year, there are some costs that we haven't had in the past 4 or 5 years at least. And also new amounts that to get this well up and running and operating fully, which were necessary. So we put in $100,000 in number 11 for well costs. Your sludge removal contract was up, I think, in 2023.
Yes.
So that was increased slightly there. Water main breaks and parts. As you stated earlier, we've had a ton of water main breaks, which require a lot of not only assistance from DPW, but fixing and materials. So those are your major items. The other thing is also your chemicals. So we increased chemicals, which is number 3. Because the wells are now online, going to have to treat obviously more than we had to do in previous years.
Jen, on line 34,
Yes.
the water purchase,
Yes.
we don't anticipate this going down with the well being online, or?
So
This is the small well. This
Yeah.
well will help. Once we get the Fairview, the Hillwood well on, then we should see a significant difference. The well that's running now just takes care of the Oak Ridge section of town. Gertie's, Forest, Morningside, Hillside. We'll see a difference, we won't see a great difference. The other well comes on, we should see a substantial difference.
I also didn't want to budget too much,
No, that's fine.
in case something happens, as
Just
you know.
excited that we have a well work.
I know Passaic Valley also increases their fees by 6% every year. So I wanted to have a little bit of a buffer there. On the last page.
Councilman Roman had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The well cost, that's not related to the filtrate media in the new filter systems, because that's new, or is that?
The 100,000 cost is yes.
Is a filter.
Right now, the wells used to be ran from down the sewer plant, they're now moved to my department. I've been training 2 guys to run the wells. There's filters that need to be changed every 3 months. There's chlorine that needs to be bought monthly. There's other materials and testing equipment. 100,000 might be too much, 100,000 might not be enough. So we started with 100 to see how this year goes. We're hoping 100 will cover both wells. We're not gonna know, like the chlorine should last us 4 weeks for a delivery, depending how much we use. We might be every 2 weeks, it might be every 6 weeks. So speaking with Jen and Kevin, 100,000 is our starting point. Hopefully we can lower it next year, or we might have to raise it once we put the other well online.
If I can interject, we're working a deal with them that the pool chlorine, I buy in larger quantities, so I get a lot cheaper price than they get. So we can buy it from the pool and we'll truck it to each well, to save money that way.
We're trying to work on that, right?
So you're gonna buy it
And
from the utility.
on a good note, the cost of chlorine actually dropped this year.
Well,
Something has to.
What my question, basically, when we had the consultants come in and explain the PFAS treatment systems, they talked about the filter media change for the large filter vessels.
Right.
Obviously, this is the first year of operating this system. Are you accounting for a filter media change for the large vessels, or is that something that we're gonna say is next year?
Hopefully, from what our understanding is, we should be able 2 to 3 years before we have to change the media.
Okay.
So no, I'm not figuring it. The media is very expensive.
Right, okay.
Media is a lot of money for the media.
Okay, so
That'll
that'll
That'll be a capital item. And what we've been doing
We
is
have anticipated with the.
Yes.
with the fee increase
And
already.
since the not to lose the media, even though the well hasn't been running into the system, it's called wasting it. We've been running it every day for 15 minutes to a half hour to keep the media moving.
Right.
So that's why we didn't have to change it already. But now we're running the well 8 hours a day. Hopefully by next week, we're running 24/7.
It's so exciting.
You should come up there and see, it's amazing what's in those buildings to look around. When everybody wants to come, just give us a call.
Great.
On your last page is mostly your debt service and your statutory payments. You will see that our NJEIT loan came off. That was a loan from 2004. That was finally paid off in 2024. So that is your biggest difference there on that page. We also have capital requests for water and sewer capital on page 3 of your long sheet. You want to go over these?
Wow.
All right, this is another
Well, this is your.
Mason dumps, which we talked about. I was looking for them. We want to upgrade the sewer mapping. We want to make that all digital and up. As you notice, when we have a major water problem, we have to pump with a hydrant from Montclair to Verona. And that comes to the boiling water and all that aggravation and all the testing, all the flushing. We're looking to put an interconnection in where we just go there and turn a valve and it feeds the Verona system. That's something we're working on. Asset management plan. And basically, that's you and Kevin.
Yes, so we did the asset management plan a couple years ago. This is providing updates to that plan. I don't know if you want to add anything additional to it, basically.
It's an update to the existing asset management plan to update what's been done and what the new priorities will be.
Design the new nitrate system. We come up with that design down for the treatment plant and get that taken care of. Lead and service replacements, the state says we have to check every water line in town. So right now, we're checking homeowner sides, and every time we dig a hole, we check the town side. And that'll be an ongoing project, I think, till 35, Kev, we got, or 33?
2033.
33. So we have about 600 homeowner sides checked now, about 500 town sides. That's something we're constantly doing, checking lead and services. And the wind sewer line needs to be rehabilitated. We changed one section already. When the weather breaks, we'll change the second section already. We already appropriated the money for that. But we're looking to line or do work on the entire system, which needs to be done. And then our smoke testing. We got the results back. Like Kevin said, we're gonna have a meeting and decide what we need to do and what's our biggest problems and what's the homeowners' problems and what's the town's problems, and get all the smoke testing done so we stop the infiltration of rainwater and sun pumps and stuff like that going into our treatment plant.
Just to clarify, this is repairs relating to the findings of the smoke testing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilwoman?
So these dump trucks are specific for sewer.
Yes.
Okay, and the other two
Are
are for,
treatment highway
okay, so 4 total, but spoken for.
for two different departments, two different budget items.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it for Mr. Valnero?
That is it for him.
How many years?
He's
Oh,
good.
everybody else has been talking.
Yeah, years of service.
Started in 84, 41.
41. You're the new guy around here, huh?
I think about it every day when I want to retire. 41, I'm 66, I can go tomorrow. Yeah, hard time, I tell you.
No, you can't. Let's get him home.
You're good. You're
Thank you
good.
very much.
All right, Dave, you're up. We're going back to tab 23, which is recreation. On the top, again, contractual. The only difference is your community center custodian was separated out, which I don't really know why, but just to streamline it, I combined their salary from number 2 to number 1. Other than that, really no difference, not too much of a difference in salary lines, and operations stayed the same. Come in.
Evening, everyone. Just gonna do a quick explanation of the Office of Community Services. Just to give some credit where credit is due, because I think there's some employees there that work extremely hard throughout the year to provide, an incredible service. So the Office of Community Services, we see everyone from the occasional birth certificate in Verona all the way to our adult senior exercise programs to death certificates, provided vital statistics for the town. Our office is comprised of 4 full-time employees, 5 counting Anthony Osorio. We have Mary Farrell, who's the supervisor of health and vital statistics, Mike McMahon, supervisor of rec, Leslie Sullivan, who's the deputy registrar, and anywhere from 15 to 25 part-time employees. Those range from medical transport drivers to the senior bus to outside, inside field gym supervisors. And then during the height of the summer season, which is rapidly approaching, we could have anywhere from 175 to just over 200 seasonal employees. So our office does have a wide scope of reach. We do our best to provide a very efficient and pleasant experience for all of those who encounter our office. And I think over the past years that I've been there, we've done a really good job in doing so.
For any question? Sorry.
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
So in terms of your staff,
Yes.
you had for a while a staff member that was really focused, maybe exclusively focused on disability programming. And unfortunately, he left the organization. What are your plans to restore that focus? Are you wrapping that into a full-time employee's responsibilities? Or are you going to rehire for that part-time position?
We're in the process of navigating that, whether it's gonna be a full-time or part-time person. We're currently working on the job description, salary, and how we're gonna fit that in and manage it, but it's in the works and should be advertised shortly.
Okay, because that was really important, also just to make sure that we hit our legal compliance issues in this area. So thank you. I'm really glad that that's coming back this year. Thanks.
Move into tab 24, which is health. Salaries remain the same. The bottom, as you know, our health contract has changed over to Bloomfield. In that line, it did reduce what our cost was. But in their contract, they do have a line specifically if there is overtime, which we've been told that there will not be overtime, but in case there happens to ever be overtime, I did want to budget a small amount for that, which is why you see a slight difference of $3,000 there, just in case anything happens.
It should be incorporated 5-hour.
It should be,
off
yes.
hours or.
Yes. But there is language in their contract that we would have to pay overtime, and obviously this being the first time that we're using them and unknowing if overtime will actually happen or occur, I just wanted to have a small buffer there. So that is the only difference there. In tab 25 is your senior budget. There's no difference. That budget has remained flat.
Of course, I'm gonna ask about the pool party. So what is the senior citizen pool party? What are these fees for? And is this matching agenda? How are we subsidizing the cost for?
So the special events are the bus trips that we provide to the senior citizen club.
Yeah.
The pool party has been a service that was provided by the town this year. I've already spoken to the president. That's going to be paid for by the senior club this year. So with everything staying the same, we're looking to provide the same bus trips that we had, which was 4 last year. And in charging the senior citizens for the pool party, they're probably not going to cover their first year paying the whole thing. We're going to have a little bit of a buffer just in case the bill is above what we want to ask the seniors, especially the first time that they're paying. But that bridge has been crossed this year, and they will be paying for hopefully a good percentage of it, but we'll be working to cover the cost moving forward.
Okay, great, thank you.
Last is pool. Tab 28. On your budget summary sheet, we are projecting or proposing a budget of $1,009,750,000. In revenue, you can see at the top, based on survey results, you guys are all aware of the survey, what was put out there. We decided to do the 15%, or you all decided to do the 15% increase, which is reflected there in the memberships. And I also then put in fund balance of 200,000, which was also part of the recommendation. A little bit higher than the recommendation from New Gen study, but I want to ensure if we do have a fall off, that we're still going to be safe, basically. At the bottom, you will see the appropriations match, and then we'll get into that. Salary and wages on the next page increased almost $20,000. This was a combination of Dave's input as well as my own, and where we thought, and based on the conversations that we've had about the pool, where we thought each line really should be. Most of the increase you will see is in lifeguards, which has been discussed. Do you want to comment anything on salaries?
Just
That's okay.
the minimum wage has gone up dramatically over the past several years. I believe in New Jersey, it's supposed to be $25 an hour by 2032. So that's going to continue to trend, upward at a pretty big increase. And the number one job that, like, I shouldn't say number one of the top jobs that keeps our pool safe is the lifeguards. In years past, when I first started, we did not give $1 extra an hour or some of the other things that we provide to attract those employees. And obviously we want the best employees that we can find serving as lifeguards. Other towns have had shortages of lifeguards. So with the minimum wage going up drastically in Verona, we put $1 on top of that for first year lifeguards to again encourage kids to get that certification. And to have that job with some real responsibility at a young age. So for the increase that we asked for in salary and wages with the minimum wage going up, part of that is also that we do offer lifeguards an extra $1 an hour.
When do you advertise for the lifeguard positions and the other positions?
Those went out February 1st, but they're currently still open.
On the next page, we have part of the operating costs. Let's see. We have electricity, which increased, which is our PSE&G bill. Your credit cards significantly decreased. As you may recall, last year, the fee for using the credit card per transaction has been passed off to the consumer. So that has significantly decreased. Parts, repairs, and equipment has increased. Chemicals, we kept the same. Clothing, we increased slightly. And landscaping, we decreased.
We took away 2 lines.
On the next page.
Deputy Mayor?
Sorry.
Jen, where's when we had this talk a while ago, where's the expense for water? Water in here? So it's in my next page.
No.
It's on page.
See, this is what I had computer issues, I told you.
To 9.
9 and 10, yes, okay. I'll have to get you this copy as well.
But it's included in.
It's included in the numbers, it's included in your original emailed budget binder, just not in the printed for whatever reason. I don't know why. What was the question?
What's the number on water?
Water, 48,000. Let's see. Swim team was 800 and that remained the same. Water delivery was 750 last year, and we that down to 500 because what was spent was 121.
So that's just the lifeguard, they stay dehydrated. That's all that is. It's not water really.
Exactly. The audit remained the same at 1,500. Computer software and support was 24,900 last year. We spent almost 17, so that dropped to 18. Legal insurance, general insurance and legal was 5,000 last year. We spent 1,100, and what was proposed is 2,500. State licenses was the 700 last year, which is the slide permit we have to pay for. There was also classes for pool and
And that's all that we paid for. The township.
So that was an additional cost, not originally budgeted for. So what was spent last year was $1,795. So we bumped up state licenses to $1,000. The cleaning services was $8,600 last year. We bumped that up to $9,500. Last year, we had zero budgeted for water and sewer. We are budgeting 48,000 this year. And the rate study last year, we budgeted zero. And we spent 9,500. And in discussing that with the additional information that they've provided, they're looking for an additional amount as well. So we budgeted for 5 there. But it's all included in the total amount. On the next page, thank you. And I will get this out to you. On the next page, major differences is your capital improvement fund. In previous years, it was 10. It's been 10 for as far back as I can recall. This year I put in for 25,000. Your payment of bonds stayed the same. Your interest on bonds went down slightly. Your interest on notes remained the same. Your legal installment is basically the same. It's up $700. Social Security remains the same. General insurance of $1,000 remained the same. Your COVID emergency remained the same. And number 9 is a safeguard for me. Number 9 is for our accrued interest. If we don't have our annual financial statement that is completed, I should have that by Wednesday. Depending on if our accrued interest is up or down. Last year we had a budget 29,000 additional. So I budgeted 26. That again is just a safeguard for me to make sure that I have enough budgeted for the accrued interest. And then do you want to go over capitals? Yes.
Capitals are.
Those are on your last page of your long capital.
Have 10,000 for furniture replacement. If you, I don't know if you've been up there, you saw those. You saw those recycled plastic tables. They're one of them. We're going to try to replace a couple every year because the metal ones are starting to rot out where the water hits them, where the metal hits the concrete, it rusts out and they fall apart. So we're replacing a couple a year, whatever we can afford with the 10,000. And there's 17,500 for to renovate the basketball courts. That is, I'm going to say, in case we have to put a Band-Aid on the courts, because the following year is the replacement of them.
Yeah.
And if we don't use it, we'll just put it toward that other 100,000 next year. Just in case we have to do something to the courts to make them safer this year. That's all that is. Yes.
No, look, Council, I'm going to defer to Councilwoman Hahn.
I tried.
Right. It's fine. The plastic tables, what are their kind of life expectancy? Because I'm just thinking, they're out in the sun all day, they might get brittle.
We've had no issues with it. It's supposed to last a long time. It's gonna last a lot longer than the metal ones.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And we tried the one table to see how it was, thought maybe it'd get too hot, but we had no complaint on
It's
it at all.
nice. Yeah, it's a nice table. So how
It's a
many?
lot heavier.
Is it? Okay. And how many are you thinking this year?
I'm hoping I can buy 2 or 3 each year with the
Okay.
10,000.
2 or 3.
Depends on what the cost went up or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering if that might be something that we should start putting into operating, just because if we're doing it every year and, and we're basing that off of pool fees, it would just make sense to put it there rather than potentially borrowing this money, right? Just throwing it in there as something, if we're going to be on that, just make it a budget line. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
And the basketball courts, there's some safety issues there. And we've talked about this before. I think there's an opportunity. We call them basketball courts, but there's actually a lot of space there to think multifunctional, flexible, and so I hope we incorporate that in our thinking, use our recreation advisory committee, and we have the opportunity to do some surveys because I think there's a great opportunity there. And that can add to the marketing of the pool if we have, if we add, throw in like, oh, we have portable pickleballs, so some hours of the day. It's pickleball, sometimes it's basketball, and like, it's a great space to think big.
We could line it for that. That's
Yeah.
some issue. Any other question?
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope the rest of your night goes well. Quick.
Mr. Robot. How many years for you? We haven't hit double digits yet. That's when it'll last. In the Yankees. All right. And is that all for you? Oh, Sarah?
That concludes your proposed 2025 budget. I will send you out the sheets that were missing, as well as a revised capital sheet to include some of the differences between fire and police.
Yeah.
Did you get an update from the state of New Jersey?
No.
Okay, and when you get it, you will let us know.
Yes, I will. About state aid.
Yes.
Yes.
State aid.
State aid, yes.
Yes.
This may or may not be a budget allocation question, but it's a general or maybe operational, so I'll kind of ask both township manager and CFO. Economic development is, something that we used to have sort of a dedicated function in that, and that's kind of gone away. I would like to make sure that even if we aren't necessarily allocating for a person to do this, that we still have a single point of contact for businesses and an effective outreach program and marketing for downtown Verona, because I kind of do feel like that was effective at minimizing retail vacancies. I'd just like to know that somehow within the administrative operations of the township, that is someone's responsibility.
It is, it does fall generally within the function of administration, and a lot of that outreach does fall with both administration and public information. But I will review responsibilities and make sure that there are all the asks are still getting hit and can continue to grow on those needs that are there.
Right. There were kind of a couple of the principal tenets of that were basically when someone was wanting to open up a business in town, we wanted to make sure they had a single point of contact within the township to ensure that they got all of their permits and were able to open in a timely fashion. And then, obviously we did restaurant week and so on, but we wanted to make sure that we maintained, an appropriate marketing program for our business community.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
And Mr. Township Manager, are you complete?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the one last thing to note is that if the budget discussion is complete, Chen's coming back to the microphone real quick for timing on the truck.
Yeah.
So we're looking to introduce on March 17th. Statutorily, you have until March 31st to introduce your budget. Adoption would be then April 21st, because we need 28 days in between introduction and adoption.
And what about the capital side we can really do?
The capital side will be done probably early May. Sort of in a similar fashion, like we did last time, which was those very long bond ordinances. But I need the capital improvement from the budget to be moved over so that we could actually do the bond ordinances. So probably early May for those.
I would like potentially to not dump all the capital maybe in one night. So start having these meetings a little more progressively on the capital. So
okay.
I would suggest, I think we did this last year from council, if anybody has any specific objections on a capital request, to talk to Mr. O'Sullivan in the next, let's say by the first meeting in April, about the next month, to see where that is. And then I would like to spend maybe that first meeting in April talking about priorities, which I think we can do because have that meeting between the two budget votes and things like that. Let's start talking about that, and then we can finalize in May. But I want to have some robust conversation. We have a lot of requests, and would like to have some robust conversations on those. But I would start just going to ask if anybody has any particular concern. Reach out to Kevin. And I think the other thing, for my sake, is I would like to see some of these bids on items. Some hard. There's a lot of estimates, right? I think in the next month or so, I would like to see hard bids and hard quotes on some of this stuff, right? So that would be my request on that piece as well. So let's, any objections on that approach, being a council? Okay, so we're saying first meeting, April. Talk to Kevin by then. And that gives department heads a month to get some hard quotes. And perhaps we can get those in a Google Drive. Sure. And we just, instead of piecemeal email, because Kieran's got it all set up anyway, just start putting stuff in Google Drive, and then we can periodically take a look, just shoot us an email saying, hey, a few more things were added. We'll pop in there and start looking at some of those hard items. That'd be helpful. Sure. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to council reports because it's only 9:30, so let's get right into that. Deputy Mayor, you're up.
Make it quick. I'll jump off of what Councilman Roman was just talking about. I did actually receive some calls in the last from 3 or 4 new businesses. So I will say it's a result of the Chamber of Commerce becoming a little more active in town. We actually hired a social media person last year, so we've been doing a lot better with membership. We're up over 50 members on the chamber, and I'm speaking for the chamber because I am a member, because we have a business in town. But we had a very good Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month. We're doing a presentation of one of the members. We had Bryn Tillman, who is one of about 3 dozen LinkedIn experts in the country. And she gave a very good, it's recorded. You can go to the Chamber of Commerce website and watch it. And as talked about before, Restaurant Week, we're getting some good feedback from it. The Chamber will be sending out an email for responses from all the restaurants, basically a survey on how they did. But we had over 16 food establishments participate. We had some places that aren't restaurants that just did sandwich specials. So it went over very well. And I too would like to thank Nomada for hosting the kickoff last Sunday from 3 to 5. It was very nice. And at our meeting on Wednesday, the president of the chamber did actually comment and said, please thank the mayor for showing up. It was very nice of you to come and support the, not only just the businesses, but the chamber and what we're doing. So that's about it. And thank you for raising the Irish flag tonight, honor of St. Patrick's Day. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilman Roman.
You'll be pleased to know that given the hour, I will cheerfully waive my report.
And that is appreciated. Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. It was actually a busy time in between our 2 meetings. I want to give a huge thanks to members of the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee. They had a fantastic webinar, I think one of their first ones, on walkable communities. It was very well attended. It was recorded. And I want to thank our public information officer too for all of her hard work on that to get the recording out to residents who weren't able to catch it live. That ties into the fact that Essex County is doing a huge survey, which I encourage every member of the council to take and all members of the public. It was actually a really good, cool survey on safety concerns that individuals have, both from the pedestrian point of view, as a biker, as a driver, and there was one other category, public transportation. And you can go on a map and mark specific areas and provide feedback. I think this is really important for Verona residents to comment on. We know a lot of people want better safety at the park, at that intersection with Lakeside, on Grove Avenue. This is a chance to give feedback. There's also a public meeting tomorrow. Again, all of the information is on the Verona Township website. And again, thank you to our township administration for really blasting this out. Their next meeting of the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee is on March 11th. And as the township manager already stated, they will be talking about the Linden Avenue survey results. I have not seen them, so I'll be very interested to see them. And then I'm assuming that's getting back to the council. So looking forward for that meeting on March 11th. The Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee also had a fantastic event for Black History Month. It was so much fun to showcase a local entrepreneur. And their Women of Impact event is on March 23rd. I was told that the honorees for this year will be announced this week. So we hope to see you on Sunday, March 23rd. I too appreciated Restaurant Week. I went to Nomada, but not for the preview of Restaurant Week. I went the night before. Everyone, please have dessert there. It was standout. But I enjoyed Restaurant Week very much. And I think it's really great what the chamber is doing. And I was really upset, by the way, that I missed the LinkedIn seminar. I thought that sounded really cool. Finally, our Congresswoman LaMonica McIver had another town hall. She is also recording her town halls for individuals to listen to after the fact in case you missed them. And she is sending out a weekly newsletter, which is incredibly informative. So her website is mciver.house.gov. That's MCIVER.house.gov. You can sign up for her weekly newsletter. She's done 2 town halls already in the last 2 months. So she is communicating a lot. And I do appreciate that, as things are a little dynamic going on from the federal government. And so she is providing very timely information. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that I'll say that I want to thank again the Girl Scouts that came here and acknowledge that Girl Scout Week is coming up. And that it is in fact Women's History Month. So this year's theme is around educating and inspiring generations. So I think it's really particularly meaningful at our first meeting of the month that we did have the Girl Scouts present. I'm also excited about the Township's programming that's coming up in celebration of the month. Between the last meeting and this one, I attended the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting. I had to travel for work, but I was able to participate by Zoom. The committee actually organized a really thoughtful presentation, both from a turf perspective as well as a grass perspective with regard to the fields. So there was a lot of discussion about the future of Centennial Field and what that would look like. And so I just really want to say that I appreciate the rec committee kind of getting that off the ground and having that robust discussion. There was also discussion about other subcommittees, including the disability programming. And there has been outreach to child and other organizations in town to make sure that we are meeting those needs. The committee continues to be concerned about the pool budget and the recommendations that were made, but I did endeavor to assure them that the administration has heard those concerns and that we are going to proceed with marketing and other things to that effect. There was a scheduled joint flood committee meeting, but I believe it's been rescheduled until later this month or perhaps later. So that won't be taking place this week. But we are approaching the spring. I know it doesn't feel that way. So we are running down the clock on the winter termination program. So if there are individuals in the community that are having difficulty paying your bills, please just avail yourself of that program. I believe it ends on March 15th. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open for public comments on any items. Madam Clerk, would you please read these to the front?
For the public wishing to speak on any matter, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, please press *9. If you're attending in person, please select and once you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You're not required your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted on the Township's YouTube channel. The addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There'll be no cross dialogue during this public portion. After everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council may address your comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anybody in the gallery? No. We have stumped our favorite commenter today. Anybody at home? Hearing none, I close public comments. The next item on the agenda is ordinance on first reading. Madam, Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance I-1? I forget Houston's new numbering, lettering, because we added that. So it's going to be I-1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everything used to be G and H. Now
Yep. Thank you.
H and I.
Fixed salary and compensation of the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody please move?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by the deputy mayor and seconded by the councilwoman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Rome,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, I-1 will 25-0 published according to law, and the public hearing will be held on March 17th.
But just one thing for the public, that is a range, by the way, so that gives the township manager to negotiate with a prospective candidate for that position. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda, which is one set of minutes and 7 resolutions. Anybody follow up a resolution? No? Somebody move the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Message made by Councilman Roman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second made by the deputy mayor. This time I'll open for public comments on the consent agenda items only. Same public comment statement applies, though we're losing members of the public. So we just went from 5 to 2 on time, so or 3. Anybody? No? Okay, I will close public comments. Any council discussion? Councilwoman McGrath?
On K6, I just find I don't think it actually says here what we're doing with the grant. It's just very vague. Unless I missed something. So I don't know, can we add a sentence? Or is it meant to be this broad?
This is just the application.
This is just for the application. The resolution itself is just a boilerplate resolution provided from Sustainable Housing. The intention of the grant application is for Sustainable Verona to implement a pilot program for food composting.
Yes.
For a limited number of participants for a 1-year trial to see the effectiveness of that. That's the intention of the grant. Again, the resolution is boilerplate. I don't think there's any objection to adding an additional sentence to clarify that.
If you're saying that this is all they need, that's fine. I just, but I do want to say I am super excited with the idea that we are finally, after years of discussion, that we could do a pilot on food waste. This is where we need to move towards. So thank you for applying for the grant.
The deputy mayor has been championing that for how many years?
I almost brought it up when we talked about disposal costs. With greatly reduced disposal tonnage and tipping fees.
Yes.
Greatly reduce it.
Thank you for your leadership on that, deputy mayor. Any other discussion?
Can I just comment on L3? I urge people in the public to actually read L3 and think about getting a whole house energy audit. What they do is they go through, they will evaluate your house and give you ideas on what you can do and give you a range of levels that you can do. You can do one thing to save this amount of energy or this to do another. You will in the long run get your money back, and after a certain period of time really start saving money in your energy fund. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor L1 7 through 63.
Okay, we have no agenda this evening. We have nothing on the agenda for new unfinished business. Anything anybody wishes to bring up? Hearing none, I will open for public comment once again. Nope. I will close public comments. And are we going to executive session? Do we need to?
Very brief.
And no official action will be taken.
Correct.
Being that we have passed resolution to go into executive session, we will be doing so, from which the public is excluded. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you on St. Patrick's Day. Have a lovely day.